Hey, Power Action. I want to introduce you to our good friends at Thorne Nutrition. Thorne makes the best supplements I've taken, and I'm just not saying that for any other reason other than it's being the truth. I got into the supplement game a long time ago through, if you guys have listened to the podcast, George Zangus, Marathon Nutrition, and, creatine and protein and some other things. And supplements have always been important through all the blood testing and trying to optimize micronutrients in the system through blood work. And every time I would go work with Cosenta and Tom Incledon, whenever he would say, hey, these are the supplements I want you to take, this is where you're deficient, Thorne was always the default. And this is long before we ever met them, and had the opportunity to connect with them through Sornex and then reach out to them and make them a sponsor of the collective in the symposiums, and just create a really excellent relationship. And the reason being is we take the supplements daily. My wife takes them, my kids take them, and I am by far one of Thorne's biggest fanboys.
Gut kits as well. So get some feedback on our gut health, which has been pretty interesting.
Yeah, especially when you have vitamin A toxicity.
Well, there's one way to find out. It's poop in a cup.
Funny story. Tex listened to... I think it was Rhonda Patrick who talked about eating liver, which is, a good idea. Tex took it a little far, started consuming 2 to 4 ounces of liver daily. And then we, through Thorne, ended up getting some gut work done and figured out that he was just bypassing his entire crib cycle. And even though he was eating carbohydrates, was totally ketogenic and was dealing with vitamin A toxicity.
Quick way to lose LBs.
So it was beneficial because we were like, what the fuck are you doing? And we figured out that Tex took the prescription. It reminds me of when Zangus originally gave his creatine. He told us you got to take 25 grams a day, 25 grams a serving 5 times a day. By the end of that day, I could hardly walk from the GI distress and from the pain in the stomach.
Did you 25 grams a serving?
Yeah, it was 5 tablespoons 5 times a day. So we pretty much did the 5-week loading in one day. Nice. And needless to say, I went out to try to run, and it was like somebody stabbing knives into my stomach.
Well,
so it's important that when somebody does some supplement recommendations or what, that it has to be very clearly out. These are the amounts you take, like this sleep remedy that they have right here. This new one.
They got some cool effusion tech here that I could demo. Essentially, it's a single serving of your supplementation recommendation.
And you know what? You can't mess it up. Just take one. You don't have to take the whole box, which is what I would have done.
Also true. Yeah. So you can either, put this guy in a little water bottle or just take it to the face.
Yeah. That's just like how we roll. But, all kidding aside and all jokes, Thorne has been a cornerstone of not only my nutrition and my supplement routine for a lot of years. After, working with Dr. Incledon and taking other brands and then going back and getting tested and not seeing noticeable changes. The one thing that's really nice about Thorne is you get what's in the package. It's the highest level tested. And I think if you're going to spend money on supplements, Thorne's the only way to go. So if you're interested to see what I take, you can go to thorne.com/u/powerathlete. It's thorne.com/u/powerathlete. We'll have those in the show notes. And
20% off.
And you also get 20% off. So you'll see the supplement stack, the stuff I recommend, and the stuff that I'm taking. And if you wanna buy in, you'll get a 20% discount
on anything.
Not just the stuff in our cart, but if you're interested in what we're taking, you can check it out at thorne.com/u/powerathlete. And if you want to
enjoy the episode,
now tune in to Power Athlete Radio and the magical, angelic voices of Mr. McQuilkin and myself. So bye.
Yeah, Andrew, Craig, and I grew up in the mean streets of the Rummel Creek Elementary School.
West Houston's a tough place to go, man.
Yes.
It's like the mean streets of Palos Verdes where I grew up. It's just a real tough place.
Exactly. Yeah, man. And all I remember from growing up, a lot of football, and then I have no idea where the Jiu Jitsu and the combat sports came into play.
So I wasn't good enough at football. I was like, I got to be good at something.
Well, he wanted more male contact with less clothes.
That was it.
Oh, that explains everything.
Yeah, it makes total sense now.
I'm not jerseys, pads. No, let's take it off. Let's just really get into it.
Let's just get weird.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, man, take a moment to introduce yourself to our listeners. And we got a couple hours to dive into whatever the hell we want.
Okay, so yeah, we'll go over the story.
Give us like
and
the hero's
man.
journey.
I'll
Like I
give
want to
you-
know the hero's journey.
I'll
Like,
give you.
You were, Tex was beating you up in elementary school.
Definitely not.
You had this fucking, fire, this chip on your shoulder that spawned into.
Well,
where you are now.
it was like I was always athletic growing up. Played all the sports, right? And like that's something that you play every sport growing up, like
Sure.
football, basketball, baseball, even roller hockey, soccer, everything, right?
Yeah,
Track.
No, I played roller hockey too,
Yeah.
which I'm a little embarrassed to admit, but we used to play street hockey with our buddies and fucking try to kill each other.
Yeah, no, I loved it. That was one of my favorite sports we did.
And then my favorite was at night we would dip the balls in gasoline and we would set the tennis ball on fire and we'd play fucking fireball at night, which now I think about it, I'm like, I can't fucking believe they let us do that. We didn't fucking burn the whole neighborhood down.
I don't think they let you. You
Well,
just did it.
we never asked permission for anything.
Yeah.
And then we used to hit them at cars and then think we could skate away. Like, what the fuck? Like, all right.
Fireball sounds dope.
Yeah. You guys never did that? You took
No,
a
we
tennis
never did
ball?
that,
Yeah. It was
We
either
were- we
WD-40 or gasoline.
No, we couldn't do that. We're in West Houston. That's frowned upon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played at the roller rink.
Oh.
So yeah, I did the football track thing. High school, never excelled too much. Went to college and did a great goddamn job playing beer pong and doing the frat thing. And it was then that I really got inundated with jiu-jitsu and martial arts. My cousin, he's kind of the driving factor. He, when I was in high school, he was a little older than me. He was living in Brazil. He had started doing jiu-jitsu. There's like 4 cousins, like me, my brother, and my 2 cousins. And there's like a pie chart. Travis got the biggest fucking piece of athleticism, right? He's like the man. And so he had this huge talent, and he got kind of sponsored to go down there by some guy who was teaching his son's private lessons. Sent to Brazil, like, Travis, you're too good to be training in Texas right now where there's not much jiu-jitsu going on. Go down there. He lived in Rio for a couple of years.
Have you ever been to Brazil?
I fought in Sao Paulo, then went to Rio for a week and hung out. Yeah.
I spent a whole month in Brazil for Carnival.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
we started in Bahia, and then we went to Rio, and then down to Florianopolis. So I got a chance to see the whole country. It's
Heck
amazing.
yeah, man. Yeah, I remember I learned how to say 2 things. Go up to girls and say "fala English," just to see if we can have a conversation. And also, "Quero uma garrafa de água sem gás," because I wanted a bottle of non-carbonated water. And that was the thing, yeah.
I remember pale de queijo, which were the cheese breads.
Yeah.
And I remember the obrigado, which is basically fucking, thank you.
Right. And it's different. It's interesting how the dialect changes from like Sao Paulo to Rio.
Yeah.
Like Sao Paulo, de agua, Rio, de agua.
Yeah. Well, and what's crazy is even more than the language is the people. So Bahia in the north, like I've never in my life seen like the variance of people that I've seen that I saw in Rio. Like I remember we seeing like black girls with like blonde hair and green eyes. I mean, you see like a white girl like with like kinky hair, and you're just like, what is going on? And we asked somebody, I'm like, what's going on here? And the guy he's like, imagine a big pot where everybody just has sex for a long time, and you just get anything that like we basically called it like the Russian roulette of offspring.
Beautiful people.
Well, it's just because like so many cultures, they had an indigenous culture, they had slave culture, they had Argentinian, Portuguese, they had all these different European cultures all came in, and he said everybody just humped until we got a lot of weird shit going. And you could see it, man. Like the mixes of people that you would see were like, oh my god, this is insane looking, and it was super cool to see.
Yeah, it was a cool spot. I fought in Sao Paulo, so I got to Rio, and I'm still rocking my cornrows because I had long hair, and I would get cornrowed up for fights. And my cousin was like, dude, if you hit the beach, you got to wear a sunga. Nobody wears regular bathing suits.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, okay. I went and got a sunga.
Which is a Speedo.
It's a Speedo.
Or boy shorts.
Yeah.
Like,
and
not total banana hammock, like a little longer on the side.
It's a little longer. Yeah.
But there are some dudes that straight up rock like the banana hammock.
You're still showing a lot of leg. There's a lot of skin. And you walk around on the beach, and all of a sudden I'm like, Travis, what the fuck? Nobody's wearing a sunga. I was the only one on the beach wearing a Speedo. I was like, yeah, I guess maybe it changed a few years ago or whatever it was.
That's
but
awesome.
yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, Cuzzo, he comes back.
Cousin comes back, man, and he starts training out of my uncle's garage, and so this is between my freshman and sophomore year of college. The only
Here in Austin?
Houston. Only summer I went home from UT, went back to Houston, and I trained with him for the summer, like 2 months. Just got my ass kicked, but I was like, after that, I was pretty hooked. And then from there on out, I started watching all the fights and just looking this shit up constantly online. I was just like obsessive with it, you know, but I wasn't training that much. I was back in school and I was going like a couple times a week, but I wasn't serious about it. I was more serious about watching it and being a fan of it. And towards the end of college, I started like dabbling more. I started boxing a little bit, kickboxing a little bit. And then when I graduated with the most pointless degree. I don't even know if they still have it at UT, corporate communications. It sounds awesome. A lot of older guys in the frat were graduating in corporate communications, going into real estate, making all this money. I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good degree. But by the time I got done, I was like, I don't want to do anything in the real world. I got to try this fighting thing. So I had that conversation with my father, like, that every dad wants to hear after they send their son to college and pay for everything and pay for the frat. And their son comes back and goes, Pops, what I actually want to do now is fight for no money at all. And he's like, my dad was super cool about it. He goes, all right, well, come live with me. You're not going to make any money. So, I'll help you out and just follow this like it's a full-time job. So I did, man. It was like something I was obsessed with it and I wanted to be good at it. I wanted to be a part of it. And so after that, I moved back to Houston, got my least favorite job I've ever had in my life, 24-hour fitness. Fucking terrible. And I started training constantly. And so that was fall of 2008. By spring of 2009, early 2009, I was having my first amateur fight. And I started out I want to do one fight. I just got to see how it goes. I got to feel this. And after one, I was hooked. And I did 3 more that year, all amateur fights. I went 4-0 in 2009. Started going pro in 2010. Rattled off 6 wins and was in the UFC by 2012. And so it was a really fast trajectory. Yeah.
And middleweight?
I did middleweight, yeah, which is funny now because I used to walk around like 200 pounds and I would cut a little bit of weight. Now I'm not lifting that much. I'm not working out as hard. I'm like walking around 185 pounds now. So yeah, I did middleweight and I was a small middleweight. So by fight time, I was usually cutting down from like 194, whereas these other guys at middleweight by fight night. So I'm usually 194 back on fight night, 194, 195. I thought that was a big deal. I was like, dude, I put on 10 pounds. All right. But I knew nothing about weight cutting, knew nothing about the science of the hydration and the sauna and all that kind of shit. So most of the guys I was fighting were usually 210, 215, 220. They were fucking monsters. And so, yeah, did 7 fights to the UFC. Now I'm coaching guys. Last fight was 2015. And man, it's just been like the coolest thing that I've done because I traveled the world. I hit Australia, Brazil, Manchester, Abu Dhabi, made a ton of awesome friends. I feel like I've got connections all over the world now. I got good bullshit forever. Yeah. Everybody always wants to talk to the guy that, oh, you used to fight? Oh, cool. Yeah, I got my cousin does. I'm not as high level as I did though, right? So I'm doing a podcast with y'all talking about this shit. It's been a great journey.
Nice.
Yeah.
So then what do you do?
Now I do 2 things. I work for Onnit in the marketing department. So I got that gig. My last fight in the UFC, I had changed things up. I moved to Austin. I was going to change weight classes, go to 170 because the guys at 85 were too big. I got a couple of new. I was still using my cousin as my grappling coach. I got a new striking coach in Austin, and I was sponsored by Onnit at the time. And so Aubrey, the founder of Onnit, was helping me out. One of the components of fighting is like that mental side. And I didn't give it as much credence early on, but once you start losing, you start to look for anything you can to get back on track. And so for me, that was, okay, man, why am I losing these fights? I'm just as good physically, technically, something's not clicking in my mind. I'm not performing the way that I have in the past. So I went through a few different like mental sport psychology coaches, I guess. And I was never really pleased with that many of them. For the most part, it's all the same thing. They're trying to get you to have this belief in yourself. And it's just all visualization, right? And so for this last fight, I enlisted Aubrey to help me out with that. And it was hugely helpful. I still lost the fight. Had a fairly good showing. But after the fight, 3 losses in a row in the UFC, that's never good. I know, okay, my journey is kind of coming to an end. Do I want to continue doing this? By this point, it was all I had done from 2008 until for like the past 7 years. I was a little burnt out. And so I got done. I knew I was getting fired. And Aubrey said, hey, man, we got something for you on it. At the time, there was this chick at On It. She taught yoga and did some other stuff at On It, but she was the main liaison, the main communication with all the fighters that we were sponsoring. So it didn't make a lot of sense for her to be that position. So we put me in that position. And from there, I started signing more time. We only had like a few UFC guys. And then so I started signing some boxers, kickboxers, Muay Thai fighters. For instance, like Errol Spence Jr., we were on Errol Spence's trunks for a couple of his biggest come-up fights where they were finally being televised. We had On It right on the waistband. Errol Spence is not like a guy that uses supplements, but we were paying a little bit of money. We got on these awesome Showtime cards. Being on Spence, I mean, one of the biggest boxers today right now, right? Sure. Started signing other guys like NASCAR drivers, PGA golfers, all that sort of stuff. And so that's my position on it is keeping communication with all the people that we sponsor, people, influencers, if you will, pros, stuff like that. The other thing that I do at 10th Planet is I coach kickboxing, boxing, mixed martial arts, and we've got a huge young squad, like 20 to 25 years old, guys that are just hungry, driven, with way better social habits than I had at that age. They aren't partying, they aren't doing anything like that. They've got like eye on the prize, want to be fighters. Not want to be fighters. They want to be fighters and they are fighters. And so right now I'm kind of leading the charge right there, kind of being like, these guys can look at me and see what I've done, and it's easy for them to trust what I'm telling them, which is a cool thing to be in this leadership position. Because a lot of time I still think of myself as like way younger than I am, as I'm sure this happens to you sometimes. Like, I'm 35. Fuck. Sometimes I'm like, dude, I'm just like you guys. Oh wait, no, y'all are 25. No, okay. So I'm leading the charge on this along with.
You don't realize until they say something.
Exactly.
Because in my head, I still think the same way. And then somebody say something, you're like, wait, how the fuck old are you?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't alive during September 11th. You're like,
They say that?
I've heard that before when we would do the military thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were going and working a bunch with the military, and like these kids were like, I mean, they legitimately weren't alive, or the kid was like, oh, I was in
Read
kindergarten.
about that in a book.
I was in kindergarten when that happened, and you're like, I was in the NFL and watched that from the training room. How fucking old are you?
No, I'll drop like a reference, like Fresh Prince reference, but and the handshake that Will Smith does. Nobody gets it. Nobody knows what the fuck I'm talking about.
Super Troopers is also a marker that kids just
yeah,
that
too. Or like I'll play a song and somebody's like, "Coach, who is this?" I'm like, "It's Led Zeppelin." You don't know who Led Zeppelin? These kids don't know what the fuck's going on. And so I made a post actually recently. I was like, all my 90s fighters, and I had one reach back out to me, "Coach, I'm 2000." I was like, "Jeez, these cats are young right now, or I'm old. I don't know."
You know what? I think eventually everybody gets the chance to feel old.
Yeah, no.
And what's hilarious, I mean, it's true, 100%. And then the problem is that anybody that ever fucking rides you on it, you're like, hey, you know what? Time is gonna fix this motherfucker. Because you hear like, these dipshit kids being like, yeah, whatever, boomer. I'm like,
right.
You'll fucking be there one day. You'll understand.
And I was that kid. I always made fun of like my older friends that were like the older guys that I trained with. Like, oh man, yeah, I got your hurt because you're fucking old. Yeah, it's gonna happen. And then boom. Next
thing you know, you're old.
Yeah, it gets all of us.
Do you have kids?
I don't.
So when you have kids, hopefully one day in the future when you have them, or if you don't, who doesn't matter. But like, it's pretty interesting, like going through this thing when you realize, you're like my daughter should turn 10 next week, and being like, fuck, you guys are a decade old. All right, this is fucking getting weird.
Yeah. Got 3 more decades on them.
Yeah. Like you little bastards. No, they're, but it's, ideally having kids keeps you kind of young because I'm exposed to a whole bunch of stuff that I would never be exposed to.
I feel the same way with coaching, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just being around all these young cats all the time. Like we had fights in College Station. And so we took all these cats to College Station. I think we might have won like all 4. We did really good. And then, so I'm like, I feel like the chaperone or something. We went to
Dixie Chicken.
You're like the dad, you're like taking them out for food. I got this, kids, don't worry.
We went to, what's the College Station's like equivalent of 6th Street? It's like North, I think it's called Northgate. We went to Northgate and we're going to all these college bars, and I'm just like trying to keep my eye on all the kids. Like, okay, come on guys, we're going to the next bar. We're going to the next bar. And these they're going crazy. And it felt strange. Yeah.
As it should.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. When I played for the Chiefs, so I probably would have been in like my late 20s. I think it was 27, 28. We got invited to go out to, one of the guys I was playing with started dating one of the girls from KU, which was already weird. So they invited us to come out, and we got a chance to go to a college bar, and I'd been to a college bar in years. So I show up with like Jared Allen and all those guys to this college bar, and all of a sudden the fucking like music stops, and they're like, "Holy fuck, these are all like Kansas City Chiefs starters."
Those guys are 30.
Yeah, we were in our like middle, later 20s, and my buddy goes over and basically just takes like a wad of cash and is like, lock the door, throws the cash up, and is like, free drinks for everybody. These fucking kids about lost their minds. It was pretty epic.
Where all did you play?
I grew up in Southern California, played at Berkeley, and then got drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles. So I played there for 5 years, and then I went to the Kansas City Chiefs, and I was there for 4. And then my 10th year for the Patriots, and I ended up getting hurt, and then came home and
We O-line?
yeah, offensive line.
Nice.
So there's a picture of me, I think.
Yeah. No, I was just I hung out with what was it? Played golf with my dad the other day at UT, and afterward we're playing bags like cornhole, and this huge dude comes up. He's like, "I got next game." He whoops my ass. I'm like, "This he's not your regular dude." Huge. I talked to him. He's Corey Redding, played at Texas, then played in the NFL for 13 years. I'm like, looking at you like 10 years, 13 years. That's a fucking run in the NFL. I mean, most guys, just like the UFC, it's like, what do they call it? A cup of coffee or something, right?
Yeah, you show up and
it's
get
like
a
a couple of years, maybe.
Well, it's one of those jobs where either you can or you can't.
Yeah.
So like when they say 3 years is the minimum, it's super it's not accurate. So dudes either show up and you can play, and if you can play from day one, you play for a while, and if you can't, you're out of there really quick.
Yeah.
So I mean, I remember seeing young guys come in, and they would always be like, "Hey, what do you think?" I'm like, "I think this kid's going to play. I think he's a player." Just like I'm sure in fighting too,
Sure.
you see a guy come in first time, and if he can fight and he has all the intangibles, if he keeps it together and doesn't fucking go John Jones on people,
Right.
which is another one I was excited to talk to you about. How many fucking chances does a guy get? Like, I'm like, is it because, I mean, like, he's a fucking talent. Like, don't get me wrong.
I think he's
dude.
getting the chances because he's got the GOAT status, or, at least one of the best ever status.
Yeah, he's hands down. He's
Yeah.
he's an excellent fighter, but it's not like he's fucking Anderson Silva. I mean, there are other people that I would. What's that?
It's a bold take.
I mean, he's good, but
Top 2?
man, I don't know. I don't know if I put. I mean, do you put him in that high esteem?
I do. I mean, Anderson's my number one, though. I got a cool story about Anderson. Is when I was getting into this fighting, my 21st birthday, my dad took my brother and I to Vegas, my first ever live UFC fights. And it was right when the Pride guys came over to the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
So Crow Cop was on the card, Rampage was on the card, and Anderson Silva headlined and fought Travis Lutter for the title, beat Travis Lutter. And so that was, I was 21. That was like 2003 or something. 2013, I fought on a card, and Anderson Silva was the headliner.
Oh, wow.
So I went and saw him back when I was a young man, fought on the card. I think I was maybe 27, 28 by that point. And that was when he got knocked out by Weidman.
Okay.
But even so, he's still like my all-time.
Dude, he's so Fedor is by far, I think, still one of my most favorite fighters.
Sure.
Crow Cop ended up shattering my boy Bob Sapp's orbital.
Yeah.
So Bob is one of my oldest friends.
Really?
Yeah, he was in my wedding. That's how long I've known
What?
Bob. Yeah. So which is hilarious because he lives in Thailand now, and he invited us to go over and stay with him because he owns like a wildcat preserve. Like, he's a fucking absolute fucking insane person. I love him.
I mean, that dude is as big as it, not physically, but as a star in Tokyo,
dude,
as big as it gets.
I was in Japan with Bob, and dude, we were riding in a taxi, and somebody fucking recognized him, and there was literally a riot. Like, we had to run into it. It's
how does a dude like that fit in a taxi?
Very carefully.
Yeah.
But Bob is but like Krokov packed his glove because he was nervous about fighting Bob.
No way.
So he packed and weighted his glove, and so when he hit him and he shattered Bob's orbital, they went back and they fucking cut his glove and found out he had I think it was either super glue or rubber. I forgot what he weighted his glove with.
Nobody talks about that.
Well, no, because they just paid. That's what happens in Pride.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they kept it quiet, and they just gave Bob his money. And they don't come out, so they don't like want any fucking disgrace. Like, they're not looking for that. So everything's fine. They just basically gave Bob, and so Bob's like, I got his money. And I was like, why didn't they say anything? He's like, because they don't want to lose face. Because then it looks like he cheated, but he didn't get any money for that fight.
I mean, Bob's like the all-time, like, hey, take this fight, Bob, and we don't care how long, or
Well-
last 30 seconds for us.
Well, the thing, and I remember asking Bob about that once, was I was like, dude, what's going on? He's like, I'm just telling you this, the paycheck's bigger when I lose.
Really?
And I asked him, he's like, if I win, I get X. And
Yeah.
he goes, if I lose, I get double X. And I was like, so what does that mean? He's like, well, I don't really care how it goes. I just go out there. He goes, I'm going out to win, but if I don't win, I'm okay too.
Man, because I've seen him, like, I mean, one of my, like, he fought Ernesto
Yeah,
Hoost, you
yeah.
know, he's fought some of the
Dude,
biggest names.
Unbelievable.
And then all of a sudden he's fighting, and like somebody hits him with something, and he kind of, and you're like, no, you're just not done. Keep going.
And he's as tough a dude.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So like some of that stuff, like when Crow Cop fucking shattered his orbital, that legitimately, like, and they, because I asked him, like, what the fuck? That guy one punched you. He's
Yeah.
like, you fucking shattered my face. And I was like, how the fuck did he break that big melony? Or was he
Yeah.
like, wait, his glove?
Well, then, and then like when he fought Hoost, like he beat Hoost,
Yeah.
but couldn't continue in the tournament because Hoost fucked his leg up so
Yeah.
much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
Oh, dude, no, Bob.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, we got off on the Anderson Silva. Dude, I still to this day, Fedor, who is by far like just the calm, cool, and collected silent assassin,
Yeah.
like kind of lunchy, a little out of shape, gets out there like zero emotion and just goes out and fucking smashes
Looks
people.
a little pudgy, yeah, but has that knockout power. No, when he started losing, that was like when my world kind of got turned upside down because he came over to Strike Force and fought Verdum and got triangled, and you're like, what the heck? And then next fight, I think he lost to Bigfoot Silva. Then he lost to Dan Henderson. He lost big 3 fights in a row, and it was kind of earth shattering when you think somebody's like that invincible.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, dude, yeah, the hard thing I have with John Jones is like I don't care how great you are. At some point, like you stop getting opportunities because you can't fucking handle your life.
Right.
And then it's like, and then you're like, okay, well, is this behavior something? Because I mean, it's obviously drug induced, but is there something bigger going on? Like, is it a concussion, CTE, is there whatever it looks like?
I mean, yeah.
Eventually you become too big an asshole.
I think it's cocaine.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug. Just ask Rick James, bitch.
I think with John Jones is he drinks too much, he parties too much, and I think somebody was just comparing this because somebody was asking the other 10th Planet coach, and he was talking about when all the Roman soldiers came back after years of being out there, Caesar put them all in jail because you can't have guys that have been like,
Well, you can't have a standing army like that.
been out like raping and pillaging and just killing, come back to a civilized society. Yeah. And I feel like John Jones is that. I mean, that's like how he's programmed. And so then he gets fucked up and has a domestic dispute.
Yeah,
it's
but
too
I mean,
bad, man.
he's got to have enough handlers and enough people around him.
You would think, right?
Well, I mean, because think about it. I mean, he's not getting to these fights. I mean, like he has legitimate huge opportunities there, and he's fucking pissing them away for drugs.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's the shit I have a hard time with.
Okay, so this is my bigger question: is who's the more athletic family, the Joneses with Chandler, Arthur, and John, or the Watts?
Oh, bias Watt. Big Watt guy.
Big Watt guy. Okay.
I'm not a
TJ Derrick
I'm
and
not
JJ,
a big
right?
JJ Watt fan.
Okay.
Mainly because I couldn't stand the way
Couldn't
John
stop him.
Well,
Yeah.
no. So the way John Gruden would fucking just basically just polish the knob and smash it in his mouth every time fucking JJ Watt did anything, like even walking on the field. Like it was like I couldn't stand Gruden's fucking ass kissing. Like, oh my god, look at JJ Watt walk on the field. He would literally the entire Monday Night Football when JJ Watt was there, he would start kissing his ass from the minute he walked off the bus.
Well, that's the only player Texans had.
I know, but it was just
Tight end, defensive end, all around just MVP. It's amazing.
And the fact that he would just give him so much accolade, and like they never won a championship.
What's that?
I mean, when you win, like if you're going to win Defensive Player of the Year, you better at least have your team in the fucking playoff hunt.
Oh, no, they made the playoffs. That's the beauty of AFC South. Anything can happen.
Yeah, it's fucking garbage.
It's like the NFC East.
So, but I don't know. I got a hard one, but I will definitely probably go with the Watt brothers.
Word. Yeah.
Chandler Jones had a hell of a season.
Had 5 sacks the other day.
Dude,
Arthur's got a ring. Does Chandler have a Chandler's got a ring with the Patriots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who John Jones's brothers?
Uh-huh.
Oh, championship or athletically?
Yeah, no, but
No, I'm just talking athletically.
Just think
Yeah.
about this in terms of pay. If you look at like the amount of money, I mean, it was like the Watts brothers have been paid as the best football players to fucking play the game.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would just go purely on cumulative salaries. They're crushing it.
Well, they've revolutionized. They've changed some of the game. I won't say revolutionized because I can see that look in your eye. But John Jones has changed some of the form of fighting. Have his brothers contributed that to football?
Have they? No, not at all. No.
Can't say that.
I'll tell you this. I couldn't. I know who his brothers are, and I could not distinguish who they were on the field. Like they're good, but they're not fucking the type of people where you're like.
Can we get that soundbite, Charles? They're not J.J. Watt.
I said they're not the stir that straws the drink. Like they're good players, but are they Hall of Fame? Like I would say the Watt brothers have a chance to legitimately have busts and can.
Not all, just the two.
Yeah, just the two. Yeah. So which would be fucking incredible, but I don't know. I mean, like. Here's the thing: his brothers play in the NFL, so they're used to fucking the NFL's hard riding. Like, I mean, dude, it's a big parties, the whole deal. I can't only imagine the fight game, but like to have older brothers that are in a similar lifestyle and be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm wondering about is like, so his Chandler's a younger brother. I think John's in the middle, and his older brother Arthur played for the Ravens, retired already, but. Were they getting any of that kind of bullshit, or is it just
so the NFL? Thing? You only get drug tested once a year for street drugs, and it's in the off season, and you about know the date. So like if you get popped for street drugs, like I think one year I got tested 36 times for performance enhancers.
Wow!
You only get street tested once.
Gotcha.
So like, and you about know the date. So I mean, I played with dudes that legitimately smoked pot every day and before every game. And they just knew that they had to have like about a month of a window where they had to be clean. So they would, I don't know, however voodoo they would work to get clean. And then they would fucking basically do that. And then so guys could party all the time. I mean, dude, I know I played with a dude I know was fucking popping ecstasy after the games. Or, so I mean, dudes were doing a lot of partying. So it's kind of inconceivable to get caught. So when dudes do, like, I think they have a real fucking problem.
No, I remember having a conversation with, I used to work out with him in Houston, or not work out with him. We had the same strength coach, Brian Robinson, who played at Texas, played for the Vikings for a long time. Actually, one time I remember I got way more athletic when I started. I was good at fighting, but I didn't I feel like I hadn't reached my athletic potential. So I started going to an actual athletics coach, learned how to run better, quick feet, the whole thing. And at a certain point, man, I was doing big broad jumps, big verticals, big box jumps. I was feeling really fucking athletic. And I remember one time I was doing these broad jumps. I'm like, dude, I'm really clearing some fucking ground right now. And my coach goes, man, that's as far as B-Rob. I go, get out of town. He goes, yeah. But he's going off one leg. Damn it. Yeah. But anyway, B-Rob was telling me the same thing. Everybody knows when you're going to get tested. So if you're failing for pot or something like that.
Or for weed or for drugs or for coke or any of that shit.
Then you're doing it wrong.
Well, and the other wild one too is because the teams prescribe opiates. If you get drug testing, you have opiates in the system. If they prescribed you, you're fucking get a pass.
So they prescribe opiates?
Oh yeah, they used to hand that shit out like breath mints. Now it's a little bit different. Yeah. They probably have to have a schedule, but before they used to hand that shit out like breath mints. Wow. So guys used to get hey, I need an exemption, and so that shit always happened, but. Yeah, like that. So I think, who knows? Maybe his brothers are big partiers. I don't know those guys personally, so I can't say anything. Right. But I would imagine if I was doing my job and my brother was a fighter and he was having these issues, I think that we'd have to have a come to Jesus moment, or just fucking be like, hey man, you're not going to live in Vegas.
Sure.
Like we're going to go somewhere like a deserted fucking island where you're going to train, and coconuts are about all you get.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he lives in Albuquerque. He lives in
But he's been training in Vegas.
Well, I think he was only in Vegas for that Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
No, because he's been training with Stan Efferding.
Okay.
And Stan's in Vegas, and Stan came in. So I don't know if Stan went out to New Mexico or whatever, but I know that he's been posting a bunch of videos and a bunch of training stuff, and I assumed it was in Vegas.
Gotcha. For nutrition, or was he
strength coaching? Yeah, nutrition, strength coaching. He was getting them, and yeah, Stan's a fucking strong motherfucker. So, but I just
it's almost like a Josh Gordon thing.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Like I think a lot of this stuff is intelligence tests, right? Like, I mean, he knows that he's in the fucking drug program. He knows that he's been deemed as a high risk individual. So he has to assume every single day that some dude's knocking on to take his fucking piss.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the Nevada Boxing Commission, I mean, all those guys, they're not fucking around. So like at this point, he's such a high risk dude that like there's no, like it has to be a problem. Like he legitimately has to have some form of fucking addiction where it's like, okay, and if that's the case, then he needs help more than he needs fighting.
Yeah. And so a big question that I have is,
who's a better heavyweight than him?
I mean, we haven't seen him fight at heavyweight.
Yeah, we've only seen him at
just at light heavy.
At what, 205?
205, yeah. So I mean, that's what we want to see is him versus Ngannou or him versus whoever the current champ is, Cyril Gane or either of those guys. But the big money fight for a while was Ngannou. But my question with a guy like John Jones is his wild hair, is his craziness one of the things that makes him such a good fighter? Now, if all of a sudden he's this tamed down version, he's come to Jesus Zen John.
First of all, dude,
will he still be the savage?
Your propensity to snort cocaine isn't your deciding factor on whether or not you're a fucking savage or not. All right, that just means that you like cocaine.
Yeah,
like how it smells.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like the issue I always had with and I don't know if this is true or not, but I know this from people I've been around. But on blow, you can't hoist your sail. So you can't get a hard on. So seemed like not a very, I mean, okay. So if you're going to go out and party with a bunch of really beautiful girls that really like that stuff, and like that's, I don't know, then you got to pop a bunch of Viagra or something?
Choose a different drug of choice.
Yeah, like I'm going to sit back and sip this Red Bull so I
Who
can
was your
slay all these fucking girls.
Who was the punter that gave you
Lendetta?
Just Lendetta.
Dude, Lendetta, all that shit slows you down, boss. You got to stay clear just to slay.
A punter would hang out with LT.
So Sean Lendetta, I don't know if you remember him. He was the punter for the New York Giants with Bill Parcells.
Okay.
So I come in the league. I'm in like my second year. Lendetta's our punter. He's like in his 24th year. So he's like legitimately in his 40s. And so I got hurt my rookie year. So I was rehabbing. So the punter goes out and punts, and then he would just come hang out in the training room, and we would just fucking rap. And he was like just so talkative and was such a historian. Like if he ever did a podcast, it would be fucking the best. He's probably at home. Like the people have wanted him to get on and do a tell-all, and he probably won't. So I'm probably getting in trouble for all this. But he told me, he goes, when I played for the Giants, he goes, we owned New York. We fucking owned it. Like he goes, LT, like it was like going somewhere with like a fucking Beetle. And LT liked to party so hard that he actually bought a strip club and had it moved right next door to the Meadowlands, so he had a place to go hang. So his deal was he would go out with LT, and he goes, first, the women around LT were just unbelievable. He goes, I just wanted to be the guy standing there catching the apples that fell off the tree. He goes, LT liked to party, liked everything to party. I was the designated driver. I just wanted to be in the car when we piled all the ladies in because I knew I was going to fucking catch some apples. And so he was like, I never drank, I never partied. He was just,
wow.
Yeah, his drug of short, he just wanted to slay. And he's like, let me tell you, that stuff is not like, there'd be a lot of lonely ladies waiting around for that, that kind of deal. And so he told us a great story. He said that they had a huge game coming up, and he got to the facilities there. It's like, the trainers, the coaches are freaking out because LT's not there. And so like 30 minutes, an hour before the game, they'd gone out to pregame, they come back in, and they carry LT in the room, like into the training room, and he's passed out. They had to go out and find him. He fucking killed himself and partied. So he's passed out, and they set up like an ice tub and a hot tub, and they started dunking him back and forth, just going like contrast, back and forth, back and forth. He said on about the 10th fucking trip back and forth, all of a sudden his head snaps up, eyes are fucking lit up, and he's fucking up, and he just walks in, pulls on his football pads, pulled on his pants, put his socks and his shoes on, didn't take any gloves, didn't no tape, nothing, didn't warm up, went out and set the single season sack record.
That's
so as he's telling me this story, I'm like, so contrast.
Yeah.
And so every single day before practice and before every game, I did bouts of contrast. I'd go 3 in the hot, 2 in, or it was a 3 in the cold, 2 in the hot, 3 in the cold. I always finished in the cold, and I would go back and forth until I felt ready. And I just was like, man, it's the LT protocol. I'm going to go out and fucking sit. And I played offensive line, obviously. But like Landetta had like a million stories.
I love that.
And yeah, like that LT story is why when people are like, oh, why do you contrast? I'm like, fucking Landetta told me to when I was a 23-year-old kid. So I do it like still to this day. When I get in the shower, I go like, hot, cold, hot, and I always finish in the cold.
Yeah.
Now I got a nice tub and always do it. But it's because like LT set the single season sack record with that motherfucker.
That's fucking funny.
But moral of the story is, like, was LT a better player with or without it? It's just like there's certain individuals that are just so fucking out on the rails that's where they exist, and like that's where the greatness is.
Yeah.
Would LT have been LT without all that? Probably, but like that just goes and plays into his personality.
Yeah.
The thing I'm disappointed with John Jones is I want to see like I'm like a fan of humanity in a weird way. Like I want to see the best in the world stand on the biggest stage and have their greatest performance and get their greatest paycheck and fucking own the world. Like seeing Big Gypsy go in there and fight Wilder. Like he fucking blasted him, and to see fucking Big Gypsy stand up there and like now all of a sudden they're getting this other one. I mean, Anthony Joshua goes out and fights
Usyk.
Dude.
That was cool.
Exposed him.
Yeah.
I think that I always liked Anthony Joshua as a fighter, but they cherry picked his fucking opponents.
Yeah.
And they never put him in a situation that exposed his fucking jaw. And that dude who was giving away some serious eyes fucking laid an ass whooping on him. And they called the final round early and saved him by 5 seconds.
Big time. He was getting whooped.
Dude, he would have gone down. So
and with that one, it's interesting too because those boxing is this sport where you have to be legitimized by this like 20-0 record or something, and so you're fighting cans for so long.
Yep.
And so Joshua kind of got exposed by Andy Ruiz first.
Yep.
Came back and beat him, but then Usyk, he's fucking
dude. First of all, like you give a dude like that's the classic Rocky thing, right? Like
Rocky 3.
Yeah. Well, no, it was Rocky 1. Don't you remember the guy misses out on the fight? And then they pick Rocky, they bring him in.
Oh, yeah.
It's
but then the plot of Rocky 3, they gave him cakes.
Well,
Yeah.
the problem is that, he shows up out of shape. He's got nothing to lose, the whole world. And then what does he do? He goes out there and fucking Sunday punches and has these amazing overhand fucking like shots.
Yeah.
Knocks him out, wins the fight. And then what happens? Ruiz just fucking goes on a world tour of
6-month
fucking
bender.
Yeah, of fucking booze, drugs, and girls and food.
Yeah.
And then they get him in the rematch. Like didn't train for it.
No.
And like doesn't seize the opportunity, and then gets beat, and now you have a situation. I'll tell you, like I want to go back and rewatch that because I had other shit. I didn't get a chance to watch it live, but the clips, oh my god. Like
of the second Ruiz Joshua fight?
No, of Joshua's fight recently.
Oh,
with
Usyk.
Usyk.
Yeah, I want to rewatch that as well because well, first of all, those what is Usyk? He's Eastern European. What is he? Ukrainian or something?
Yeah, or Croatian or it's all the same.
Just
shit.
the talent coming out of those, like the Lomachenko, this guy that we work with a little bit out in LA, Tarash Lestiak. All these guys are Olympians, they're the best of the best, and they got way bigger amateur records than any American does, right? So they've got so much more experience, and I don't know, dude, something about those Eastern European guys. I've trained with a few of them, like American Top Team, these different places. They fucking punch harder. Something about being like not growing up in soft West Houston makes them punch harder than me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's no different with Usyk. He just went out there and his aggressiveness just
and he's
stole
not a
the
big
show.
dude.
Not a big dude.
No, he's not a big dude at all. What's really interesting is the fight that they were trying to put together was Big Gypsy.
Right.
What's Wilder or it was him versus Anthony Joshua.
Right. Now nobody wants to see that.
No. Now and then the Wilder had that clause in his contract
for the
rematch that he exercised. And I remember they tried to write him a check just to go the fuck away.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Fuck off. I want to bring this one back in." And I'll tell you, I was a little bummed. But now, actually, after seeing what happened to Joshua, I'm more excited about this Wilder fight.
No doubt. Yeah. Well, I want to see how it plays out. But honestly, I think Fury just smashes him again.
He's so big and so awkward
Yeah.
and so like just fucking like he's so in the NFL. There's a really weird thing. Like if you walk out and you see the dude you're playing against, and he's like kind of awkward. Like you see him like a Willie Rowe for some of these other guys I played, where like the hips are a little wide and this, and he just looks like, you know, like one of those
Like
people.
the concave knees,
Yeah,
the wide
like-
hips.
yeah,
just
like
muffin top.
yeah, just weird. And you see him and like things are oversized in this, and he just looks real awkward and moves funny.
Yeah.
You're like, oh fuck, this is going to be a fucking tough one. And it's just because he's so physically outside the norm of what you usually see.
Sure.
You know, you see guy in like, dude, he's wow. I mean, Fury's like that.
Yeah.
He's so. I mean, he's 6'8". He's so awkward. Like his shoulder movement. I mean, he like dodges a punch so well. And I just like watching him fight.
For as big and unathletic as he seems, he's so smooth in the ring.
I mean, dude, there's zero part of him. Like when you watch any of his training stuff, he's not athletic in any way that we would understand.
No.
But for some reason, he understands distance and movement in
Yeah.
terms as it relates to another human being really well.
Like when he had his when he was first coming back after like he lost all that weight, kind of went through his depression, started having his he had like a few tune-up fights, right?
Mm-hmm.
In those tune-up fights, when he pulls off the Ali in the corner
Yeah,
against like
he's
guys
like-
that are supposed to be like pretty legit
Yeah.
and just they can't even touch him. And Ali's a little small, you know. Ali's like 6'4" or something like that.
Yeah.
For a
He's
dude
6'8".
for a dude that's 6'8" to have that kind of movement is wild.
And I like it, and what's amazing is as fucking like saddlebags, I mean, fat like this, he doesn't take body shots.
No.
I'm like, why isn't somebody fucking exposing his midsection?
Yeah.
And the problem is he wears his pants up so high that I think like every shot into his love handle might as well be
Yeah,
a fucking
yeah.
below the belt. Dude, I'm such a boxing fan.
Did you listen to his Rogan podcast?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Dude, where he talked about all his depression.
Yeah.
And then the fact that I like that he was like, hey man, you know how I cured my depression? Fucking paleo diet. And he's like, I fucking worked out, and which makes sense because fat's extremely oxidative.
Sure.
And whether or not this fucking society wants to admit it, but the fatter you are, the more oxidative it is, and the more issues you have. Like, I mean, most of the sickness, illness, and the problems that people are dealing with, it's like 80% of the problems that people are dealing with, both for sickness, illness, and health and death, are fucking obesity related.
You can't say that though, because that's
Well-
not very inclusive.
well,
Are you
Well-
fit shaming us, John?
Well, here's the problem about fat shaming, right? We're not allowed to fat shame, but yet we can shame people for not wearing masks and not taking vaccines.
Right.
Like it's fucking weird to me. But at the end of the day, I cannot like. I'm never going to fat shame somebody. It's just not my deal. But if your conscious decision to try to get in shape, will fucking support you. But you can't tell me like you have to accept my lifestyle because I'm not. We're in a fucking generalist health care pool.
yeah.
Like your health. I mean, like I'm glad that you're big and proud, but I need you to be proud and smaller and be making a deal. I don't need you to be like, well, I'm just going to be a disgusting fucking fat body and eat myself to death.
Right.
And you have to accept it. No, I don't have to accept that.
No.
At the end of the day, though, the big thing that I've learned on this podcast and through everything that I've done through my life is you don't need anybody else's approval to live your life. You don't need my approval to do what you want to do. Like if I'm not a fan of fighting and I think it's a fucking knuckle dragger moron thing to do for a living.
Do you?
No,
I'm just kidding.
not at all. I'm a huge fucking fight fan.
I was messing with you.
So I told you when I was a kid, I had dreams of being a professional boxer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I started martial arts when I was 6. And then then around 10 or 11, I thought kicking was stupid. So I went down to this place that had boxing, but also did kickboxing. And my dream was to be a professional boxer, and I wanted to be a fighter. And I remember I was like,
You had to settle for the NFL.
well, so I was
what a
14
bum.
years old, and I was in we were doing a sparring deal, and I was 6 foot 165, 163, and this guy was about 6 foot 165, about my size, but he was 18. And I remember he hit me pretty hard in the face and like split my left eye open. And I remember thinking like, I'm going to go play football. And then when I went to go out and play football, all the skills that I developed over the years for boxing with hand speed and quickness and jumping rope and foot, how to cut a guy off in the ring, how to
Yeah.
fucking understand and judge distance, 2/3 inside out, don't square a guy up.
Translated.
Like fucking duck, a water to duck.
That's cool.
And I'm like, so wait a minute, this is like playing against dudes that don't know how to fight. They don't understand first meaningful touch. They don't understand angles. They don't understand how to cut a dude off and how to stay in space. And all the skill set that I had in terms of like first meaningful touch, fast hands, it just all translated. And I could always legitimately, like I was always a heavy-handed hitter, like the type of fucking shots where people are like, ugh, like you were talking about like the Ukrainians where you
Right,
hit them
right.
and you feel it in your bones.
Yeah.
That was always me.
Ah.
So all of a sudden when I started punching dudes, I could see their like the look on their face of being like, I don't want to get hit by this dude anymore. But in boxing, it's just part of the deal,
I'd love to expand on that because Andrew, you came in from football to fighting. John went fighting to football.
Right, right.
And football mentality is, think downhill, toughness, work, push, and that's almost counterintuitive for successful fighting.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
listen.
jiu-jitsu, which is Brazilians are the laziest people on the planet. And that's why they're really good at jiu-jitsu, because it's the laziest sport on the
At
planet.
least punctual as well.
Well, oh, yeah. Well, we trained Vitor Belfort.
Oh,
Where we were as CrossFit Balboa was next door to the Ruka factory in Costa Mesa.
Okay.
So Vitor came over and trained with us. And so we had Brazilian time, which would be there at 10, which might be anywhere from like 1 to 4.
Sure.
And then he's going to ask for like, it was an absolute fucking disaster.
The Sao Paulo card that I fought on, that was Vitor and Bisping were the main event.
Okay.
So that was when TRT was okay. So I remember I was
and
like,
Vitor came out yoked.
dude, I was like sitting there. So you the first thing you do when you show for fight week is you sign like 120 posters, right? You just sit there at this table. There's a stack of posters. Usually I have like one other fighter, and you just sign, and somebody takes them away, and you sign the next one. And it's like it's a pretty cool thing to be able to do. Like, oh, dude, this many people care about my signature. But I remember like Vitor is right across from me, and I've been watching this guy forever.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm an extrovert, but I'm also sometimes kind of shy.
Did you recognize him?
Come on. He had the mohawk going at the
okay.
time, and fucking traps up to his ears. Like, that's like Vitor I like to watch fight.
Dude, so I saw Vitor walk in, and then all of a sudden, like a year later, I saw Vitor walk in, and I was fucking didn't recognize him.
Post TRT or pre TRT?
Well, we saw him in the non TRT, but then I also saw him after there was like TRT is it was like the Mark McGuire androstenedione.
Yeah.
No, I don't take drugs. This is my bottle of androstenedione. Yeah. There's no fucking TRT in that.
No, the TRT Vitor, that dude's bodied up. That dude is one of the best fighters there is.
Yeah.
The non TRT, you saw like how he just faded in the UFC. Everybody's beating his ass.
Well, dude, fucking Anderson Silva with the fucking Seagal front kick.
Yeah, man.
Caught him with the front, and then the best is you got fucking Vitor you have fucking Anderson Silva thanking fucking Steven Seagal for teaching him the front kick.
If that had been in his corner,
dude. The world just fell off its axis the minute that fucking Steven Seagal got fucking.
Steven Seagal has his fucking trench coat and like yellow sheet glasses.
He's like 500 pounds, sweating. He's got sweat towels, and he's like basically over there. He's like he calls
sweat towels for him.
Yeah. Well, so in the NFL, when the big dudes would go out, all the brothers would always have like these towels because they sweat real bad. They got to have their sweat towel. Seagal's rolling around with like a dozen sweat towels because he's so fat. But he's over there and he's like he calls me sensei, and I taught him this front kick. And I was waiting for fucking Anderson, who's too nice an individual, to be like, no, this fucking guy's full of shit.
Right.
But he legitimately was like he's like, Sensei taught me this.
Yeah.
Like my head fucking exploded. No, because for years we've been talking about what a fucking fraud Seagal is, and we're like, could he legitimately be a fucking
like a genius,
like a real dude?
What's interesting about Seagal is like as big of a joke as he seems. He was like one of the first dudes to have an actual like successful,
he was a
Aikido school in Japan,
but he was also one of the first American Aikido black belts.
Yeah,
and actually had a school there. So,
I mean, he's got clearly he's got a side to him that's very legit, and clearly he's got a side to him that's a total fucking joke.
Yeah,
and it's just you got to marry the two,
Well, it's like you don't know how to navigate them.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Fuck, dude. But yeah, shit, dude. I've been such a fight fan, and the thing that I love about the UFC so much, which is a little bit different than boxing, where we have a deal in the NFL, any given Sunday anybody can win. I feel like in boxing, when you get in the ring with Money Mayweather, I mean, he's never lost. There's a good chance you're not going to lay a glove on him. I mean, the guy spent 20 years fucking getting away from the best in the world.
Sure.
Manny Pacquiao, and you see these guys fight, and like you have a pretty good idea of like how this is going to go down. UFC, there is nobody can call that shit. I mean, Anderson Silva goes out there, breaks his fucking leg. I mean, Conor McGregor goes out there and fucking breaks his leg.
Yep.
And
that was so, and you're right. So if we're looking at like the big boxing matches, like, okay, the next Fury Wilder card, Fury is probably going to be a heavy favorite.
Yeah.
There's only a few matchups right now. Like if we look at the one coming up, the Canelo versus the Plant fight,
dude,
based on the press conference alone, Canelo's going to whoop that ass again.
Canelo is hands down one of the most impressive fighters I've ever seen.
Big time.
And if you go back, he fought Mayweather. And Mayweather just took him to fucking school. And he basically took that fight and cloned everything Mayweather into this fucking like.
Because how old was he in that? He's like 22 or 23, right?
Dude,
he was like just like, he was like
have you ever seen how many fights he has?
It's like 50 something in
Dude,
one.
I think it's like in the last what was it, like 15 years, or has it been 15 years that McGregor's been fighting? He has like, it's like less than 10 or 12 fights.
Yeah.
I mean, Tyson fought 15 times in 1 year. Right. He fought like, I mean, like, I'm pretty amazed. Like, I love Conor McGregor's bravado, and I love the image and all the other shit talking. I mean, he's taken the fucking Ali model to the fucking next level, and seeing him go head to head with Mayweather, he fucking, dude, he out shit talked him. I mean, the only person that's probably on par with those guys are those fucking moron Jake Paul and his brother.
Yeah. Well, I think going back a little bit, I think Chael Sonnen laid the blueprint for a guy like Mayweather, or for a guy like McGregor.
For McGregor,
Chael Sonnen was like, that guy cut the best promos, just wasn't as successful fighting.
Yeah. And then McGregor, who has really like not fought as, I mean, for the amount of money he's made. I mean, he made more money out of the booze thing, out of the Proper 12 than he did ever out of his fighting. But just like the fact that he's done it, and like his Twitter and the shit talking and all this other stuff, man.
So, Andrew, are you asked to do that stuff, or is it these guys just taking the initiative to try to?
They listen. They're like, hey man, if you win this fight and you get on the microphone, don't thank your sponsors. Call somebody out. We want to hear who you want to fight. And I was always like, oh, I feel pretty good after this fight. I don't care who they give me.
Well, it's
hard
fucking,
to turn it on.
It's really hard to be that, like, at least for me. I mean, other than we've done a good job on this podcast over the many years. We have enough of them where the shit gets buried.
500.
500 episodes deep.
500 fights. What we figure it takes to make.
Have you seen Knockaround Guys?
No.
Oh, with Vin Diesel? So there's a line in this fucking movie that Vin Diesel was in where these guys are mobsters, and so they show up to this little town that like robbed them or something.
20 years ago. It's 2001.
20 years ago. So they show up and they're like looking for the tough guy in the town. So this guy comes over, he's a fucking asshole, and the guy's like, he'll do. So he goes over and he like gets in this dude's face and he's like, 500. And the guy's like, 500 what, fuckhead? It's like 500 fights. 500 fights is how many fights you need to consider yourself a legitimate tough guy. Oh, and then he goes into this whole monologue and then beats the dog shit out of him. And I fucking love it because we posted it when we had our 500th podcast. We're like, 500 podcasts is how many podcasts you need to be a legitimate podcaster.
I like that.
And so I posted it, and of course these guys are like the internet fighters, who are by far, the most deadly individuals on the planet. But these guys are like, no legitimate fighter would ever say anything like this. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. It's the movies, you fucking asshole. It's a great fucking monologue. Yeah. Nobody's had, I mean, the only person to have legitimately 500 fights is some like Roman guy Greek dude in like the pugilist would have like 500 fucking boxing matches, and they basically carve him on a vase. So like, we know that it's fake, but just fucking enjoy the movie. You're the guy that shows up to like, the Lord of the Rings and be like, I don't think Argolis could ever really jump off that elephant. You're like, it's a fucking elf, you fucking dipshit.
Fictional characters.
Yeah. But like, that's the problem with the internet is you have people that are trying to go around and right all the wrongs. I'm like, hey, you know what you need to do? You need to correct the internet. Start at the beginning and just work your way back till you finish.
No, I mean, if you put like, I mean, I'll put stuff online and nobody's like questioning my technique, but we got a lot of people at 10th Planet. Well, and they want to put like a little like clip of their hitting pads or something like that. And some of these people with like bigger social followings, especially like a female or something that puts it up there, has at least like 40 dudes like, well, you should be rotating that back foot a little bit more.
Dude, the amount of fucking internet coaches that want to chime.
Critiques.
Oh, dude. I like, constantly.
Keyboard critique. I like it.
Okay, so one, we'll finish with this one. I hope that John Jones, I'd like to see him fight heavyweight. So either you change the rules or put that guy on a fucking island somewhere, get him into fight heavyweight, just so that he can legitimize, his place in the.
We've got to see it, and we got to know like how far he could have taken it.
Yeah. So that's good for me. I think as much as I enjoy Conor McGregor's shit talking bravado and the entire image, I don't really enjoy a lot of his fighting.
So
I've seen some, but it's so fucking hot or cold for me.
When he was on his run, there was nobody that was more impressive for that short amount of time. Between his fight with Dustin Poirier to Jose Aldo to Eddie Alvarez, I mean, that shit was so impressive. But as soon as you lose it a little bit, man, it's hard to get it
Yeah,
back.
get a chink in that
I
armor.
mean, that magic Mac is gone.
Yeah.
And so I guess I didn't finish my thought, but going back to like we were talking about the boxing, we started talking about Canelo. Is
He's so good.
there's very few fights that right now, like maybe if Errol Spence and Bud Crawford fight, that'll be like one that I won't be able to call. I won't be able to like decisively say who's going to win.
I don't think Canelo loses. Like you could run that fucking fight 10 times.
No, I mean, but
back to back, and he's gonna fucking win 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I don't see anybody touching Canelo right now. Back to that press conference, I thought it was the coolest thing. Did you see that press conference with Canelo?
Dude, he fucking cut it. Canelo hit him with this little open hand shot. Like he got him with a body and an open hand.
Yeah.
And he cut his eye.
Canelo.
But did the guy
versus
call his
Plant.
mom out?
Dude, okay, so this is what I heard is the guy said motherfucker, right? And Canelo took real offense to that. It's not like used like a regular term motherfucker, but like took it like personally. And then and that's what Canelo said after the fight. I was talking to whatever journalist. This journalist has the same conversation with the Plant. It's like, why did he get so mad? And Plant goes, because I said motherfucker. But Canelo was saying motherfucker to this other guy, DeAndre or whatever.
So he was just looking for a reason.
Just looking for a reason. But it was so impressive that the guy took that, swiped at him, boom, pulls, hits him with a two-piece at a press conference. You never see that.
Dude. Unbelievable.
But
open hand and split his eye and got him in the body. Fucking liver shot.
Awesome. Going back to talking about the UFC fights, though, that's kind of the thing that's like, everybody's always like, oh, you think that person's washed now? You know, like they lost to this guy.
Dude.
Like they lost to the champion, the number 1 and the number 2. And in fights, somebody's got to lose.
Well,
right.
And the other thing, and I don't have the fucking fight experience you do. So like I'm probably like a lot of dudes that are trying to call Sunday, quarterback, deal where I wouldn't done this. But like legitimately being in that combative deal, anybody that has whether it's the guts, the stupidity, the moxie, whatever it is, the grit to walk in the ring, regardless of the outcome, deserves respect.
Sure.
And so like, people like my wife thinks it's funny whenever she'll ask me about football and I'll be like, hey, like in the NFL, there's like 2 classes of citizens. You have your starters that are legitimate fucking players. And then you have these other guys who are the backups that like might not be at that level. But like if I was playing against a dude that was a future Hall of Famer and he came out and his backup came in, I was going to wear that fucking dude out. It just like, and
right.
she was like, so there's dudes in the NFL that suck. And I'm like, well, suck is relative. When you play at a high level, there's guys that like aren't starters that shouldn't be there, but yet they're better than 99% of the fucking world. Yeah. So there's like 2 classes of citizens. But the fact that they strap up their fucking pads and they get out there and they do their job, like regardless of how it ended, I always will like, hey, if you did the fucking job,
sure.
it is what it is.
I see what you're saying.
But in the boxing thing, if you have the balls to fucking stroll out there, get in the cage, regardless of the outcome. And so what drives me fucking crazy and why I stopped going to in-person fights, because we went to a bunch of them, was listening to the people in the crowd who I was like, fuck you. I was like, you guys are booing these and you guys are talking about all this other shit. And it's fucking disingenuous to me. I'm like, dude, like in the boxing world, like Andy Ruiz, whatever you want to say, party's deal. But the motherfucker went in there knowing he hadn't trained. Because at the end of the day, when you're all alone in the in the locker room, and the guy tapes your hands up, and you got that 10 minutes to yourself, where they're always like, "Okay, you're ready. We're going out in 10." Like that's the time when you close your eyes and you have those honest conversations. Did I do everything I need to do to win this? Have I put myself in the best position? Am I in the best shape? Like, what are my chances? Like, you have to do that mental assessment, just like I did for every game. Have I done the work?
Sure.
Do I know what I'm supposed to do? Do I know who I'm going against? Do I have a game plan? Am I the motherfucker I'm claiming to be as I stroll out there? And like, you can fucking false bravado that. You can bullshit everybody, but when it's just you, there's no way for you to lie to yourself.
Yeah.
And the fact that those guys have the guts to still walk out there, I think they instantly get respect from me, now regardless of the outcome.
Sure. No, I mean, you have those conversations and you've done the work. But man, at a certain point, that self-doubt can always creep in somehow. I remember like there were certain fights where I would walk out and for whatever reason, like the music hits better or just something about it, you just feel it and you feel that you get in that flow state. And you're always searching, at least in fighting, you're searching, how do I get back to that flow state? What about that fight camp or that walkout song or my pre-fight ritual got me there? And I know,
is it because you guys don't have enough? Like, so this is interesting in the NFL. So I mean, obviously, I got 16 games to play. you get so many opportunities to do it every Sunday.
Not enough reps.
That I know exactly how to get to that exact like they call it flow state. Dude, I just used to call it like the fucking switch, where like you come running out and everything gets quiet and you fucking your vision gets hyper focused. It's almost to the point when you see like something in focus and everything's out of focus in a picture. Same deal. Everything slows down. Everything gets real quiet, and like all of a sudden things start happening. It's where I wish I could live my life.
Well, I think,
but like, is it because you guys don't have enough? Like it's like the days. Like Tyson had 15 fights in a year. I mean, he went out there automatic. I mean, guys are getting fucking a fight once a year. So, and there's no way to replicate that.
That's a great point. And I try to talk to my fighters about that. So, for instance, when I first started amateur fight, 4 fights in a year, right? That's one a quarter, but you're pretty much, you get done with the fight and you're straight back to the training room and you got another fight on the horizon. It's already booked. And those were some of my best fights. Obviously, the competition wasn't as much as not in the UFC. But as I built up, even though my first year in the UFC, I think I fought 3 times, and it was just always, it was more comfortable. But then as I started losing, my thought was this, and it wasn't the correct thought, but I thought, okay, if I lost, I need to take more time off and improve and get better with the skill set.
You got to get right back in.
But it's not that. Yeah. Get right back in there. And I wish I had understood that earlier, but I thought, oh man, my skills are lacking. But it was really just getting the reps and getting that comfort.
Well, I mean, we used to see it constantly. There were guys that were hammers in practice that couldn't play in the games.
Yeah.
And it was because, the lights and all the other shit. Whereas I think the people that were in that situation are the ones that loved the moment.
Right.
For me, I would have done it in a fucking alleyway in East LA. If we were like, hey, we're just basically transporting you to an alley in some back deal and nobody's going to see it other than some bums, we're still going to go out and do the same fucking dance. And I think what I always loved was I always loved the physical one-on-one fucking fight. Like I get to know exactly how good or bad I am every single fucking play, hundreds of times, every Sunday in front of millions of people or 10 people, one person.
Right.
And I think with the fight game, it's become like I don't think they have enough opportunities. And then the other thing too is if you get into a rut or if a guy's fucking playing all your moves, instantly you do a 180. Like if I'm a big punch and I know my set and somebody's hitting my hands, all of a sudden I'll change something. And I think all too often in the fight game, guys are too nervous. Like, hey, if this is the tempo I fight, this next fight, I'm going to go fucking, Clay Guida. And, and so the one thing that I realized is that guys are really nervous to change tempos and to be like, hey, you know what? I fought the last one, the whole thing was on the ground. This time I'm going to fucking stand up. And I always think that people in there, whatever you did that got you to lose, we're going to do a 180 and we're going to try to fucking throw something.
You're always trying to make all these corrections that don't actually exist, that don't actually need to be corrected. I mean, it's minor tweaks and we try to change it majorly.
So who's helping you make those tweaks? Is it your thought on your game or your coaches?
Process, and then coaches as well. They contribute to it. But for instance, one of the things with me was one of my losses was a 3-round decision. This happened to me twice. I lost a 3-round decision, but the 3rd round, I beat the shit out of the guy, right? It's like a slow starter.
Yeah, but you can't call it so here's the deal, man. And dude, we used to see this constantly. If you lose in decision, that's not a fucking loss. Right. Like if somebody else,
but you still get paid half.
Yeah, but if somebody else makes the decision, I'm a firm believer that we're masters of our own destiny. But in the fight game, because I've seen it a million times, just like I'm sure you have, a guy fucking wears somebody out. And then all of a sudden you're seeing the decision and you're like, man, that isn't what I saw.
Yeah.
And who was a fight we just saw where they had the 3 guys were all from the dudes. Oh, it was the Jake Paul fight.
Oh yeah.
All 3 judges were from his hometown.
Really?
Yeah. And so it goes to decision. He wins the decision. Sure. And so at the end of the day, dude, I always think with decision fights, you got to almost look at those as hey man, I might have lost the money, but this is a draw.
Sure.
To win a belt and to be a champ, you got to knock the fucking champ out.
Yeah.
Nobody wins a belt on decision.
I mean, it's it's tricky because for those fights, for instance, if you looked at after the fight, both guys, one guy won, but his face is way more fucked up. Yeah. Can we judge off that or something? But the thing that got me with that is I had these slow starts. So the next fight, I'm I got to go faster. I got to be more aggressive. That's really not my fight style. And both of those fights, I didn't lose a decision. I lost a finish because I got too anxious.
Or you got too gassed.
No, I didn't get gassed. I just went for a move too soon without setting it up. Just anxious to make something happen rather than letting the fight come to me and playing this counter game, this more evasive game that I like to play.
A little more chess.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I mean, the tweaks that that's just why I think the fight career is so difficult because you lose a fight, you get paid half, and all of a sudden your money's affected, and you're like, I got to change something.
Man, there's so I mean, obviously, I'm nobody to comment on Dana White or any of that, but like in the NFL, we get paid our salaries, win or lose.
Right.
So, but of course, everybody wants to win. Because
same amount of money, depending on based on who's there too. You're still getting paid the same.
Yeah. Well, like you get paid. Here's your contract. Win or lose, you get paid whatever your contract is supposed to be giving you. Because the idea is that everybody wants to win because nobody wants to lose. Like you're not there just to collect a paycheck, and if you are, you get out of there real quick. But you get a chance to go to the playoffs and fucking win a ring, and there's a lot of different things. I think if they just paid dudes contracts and there was some almost like a fucking, I don't know, like what do you call it? Like not like some form of like I don't know, bracket where hey, like these guys in the UFC we'll take all these winners and then they're going to fight against all these winners, and they just kind of did a deal where guys are paid the same, but then the more you won, the more opportunity you would have to fight against other guys that were winners, and you basically get to the point where like in fucking basketball, right? Like the brackets for
March Madness.
For March Madness. Like if they took that same approach where it's like, hey, we're going to pay you X. This is your contract. This guy gets paid now. However he negotiates or whatever they think his value is better, you're going to get paid your money regardless. Now, if you win, you get a chance to go on, and I think you end up with like a winner's bracket. And to me, that would solve a ton of these problems.
It'd be huge. I mean, and like you said, we're not fighting any harder for the extra money. I mean, you're gonna fight your ass off. You're locked in a cage and fighting in front of millions of people. Like you don't want to lose. Dude, you want to fucking win. You're a competitor. That's how you got there in the first place.
I played against a dude who, to this day, is still the dude. His nickname was the Hammer for a very good reason. I played him. He was an old guy. I was a young guy when I played him. A guy named Keith Hamilton. He had all of his kids' fucking faces tattooed all over his body. And I remember asking him, like, Hammer, what's up with all that? He's like, he goes, basically, I got to pay child support and alimony on all these fucking kids. And when I look at him, it makes me fucking mad. And that's why I play so hard on Sunday. He's like, so they're a constant reminder of all the money I got to fucking pay. You took that a complete
different direction than I thought it was going to go.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's why I did it. And because it went, I thought he was there for like motivation. His kids inspire him. No, I got to see all the money. I got to pay these motherfuckers. And it makes me angry to play on Sundays. And that motherfucker, when I say he played the game, this dude will never make it to the Hall of Fame. And if I were to mention his name, a lot of people wouldn't know him. But he was legitimately the dude. I played against him as a second-year guy. And I haven't taken many ass whoopings in my life. My brother was funny. I used to call him after every game. He'd be like, look, man, he's like, you caught that dude slipping again. I'm like, yeah, I caught him on a bad day. He's like, how'd you have a whole career catching people on their bad day? And I'm like, I was lucky. And but Keith Hamilton, after that first time I played against him, it was such a fucking war. I ripped his picture out of the program. And I put it in my wallet in front of my license. So every time I opened my wallet to get something, I had to look at his picture.
There's that motivation.
And it was my motivation to train. Is anytime I went to go spend money, anytime I opened my wallet, whatever, I had to look at this motherfucker's face. And the next time I went and played him, I brought it as I should.
Yeah.
And I remember Michael Strahan telling me, he goes, you were the only dude he ever really respected. And he said that you played the game hard, you never gave up. And he's like, that guy respected you and he didn't respect anybody.
That's high praise.
So for me, that shit is more important than a fucking yellow jacket Canton or a bust or any of that other shit. Like the admiration of the people that played the game the way that it should be played, just like in the fight game. Like there's dudes that'll go to the Hall of Fame. There's guys out there that you're like, man, nobody will ever know this dude's name. But this motherfucker was a badass. Yeah. And I think like eventually in this deal, you can be like, McGregor with your fucking Lamborghini yacht. But at the end of the day, we're all going to be old. We're all going to die. Yeah. And the only thing that fucking matters is how you did it. More importantly, the respect of the people that did it with you.
Fellow athletes and fans do recognize heart. And so like, again, 7 fights in the UFC, that's a blip compared to a lot of people. Like look at like Cerrone's like on 25 fights or something like that. These guys, which is so impressive because to get on a tangent, there's no rebound fights in the UFC. If you're a big time boxer and you lose a fight, well, your next fight's like going to be a gimme. Like they got to get you back on track.
Yeah.
That's not happening in the UFC. It's like, oh, you lost to this killer. Here's another one.
Yeah.
Good luck. And so again, like, 7 fights, it's not much. However, I'll still get like good praise from people that saw just this obscure undercard fight of me like in 2013. We're like, man, you're really goddamn tough. I'm like, such a nice thing to say, man. Appreciate that.
Dude, this is hilarious, but probably about a year ago, our friends live over in Lakeway, and we were driving over there, and this idiot was basically running in his underwear. He's in great shape, but he was legitimately running in like spandex mantis with a set of running shoes. And the guy was tan and in fucking phenomenal shape, and I almost hit him on accident because he fucking jerked in front of my car, but it was Sage Undercut.
Oh, Sage Northcutt.
Yeah, sorry. Sage Northcutt. I mean, that dude should just get into modeling.
Dude, yeah. Well, he got accepted to A&M like with like petroleum engineering or something as well.
Like there's a dude who had, I mean, he's over there doing backflips, looks like $1 million. I mean, could be like had all of the physical like appearance of being like a fucking movie star, and all, he's doing backflips. He's a good looking dude. I mean, the dude's running in his underwear, and I'm like, that guy looks pretty good in his underwear. Like, look at his fight career. I mean, he ended up fucking Dana White fucking basically just laughs him out of the UFC, goes over, and he's like, what's he going to do? Was it Pride?
Fights Cosmo.
And just gets his fucking ass smashed.
I mean, his
shattered his face.
Shattered, yeah. I mean, well, that's the thing. Like, they take him over to one. Okay, you just signed one of the biggest talents coming out of the UFC, one of the biggest names. Build him up, do something. So no, they have him fight Cosmo Alexander, one of the best Muay Thai fighters in the entire world. And Cosmo's got 100 fights too.
Yeah,
like,
and fucking fists and legs of iron.
Yeah,
he's been in like a Thailand forest, like kickboxer style, where they're beating him with fucking like bamboo sticks for fucking 20 years.
Yeah, he's a Brazilian dude. He's lived in Thailand. He's won the King's Cup. He's fought all the biggest names, and they put him in with Sage. And dude, an absolute assassin of steel. Like, this dude is a fucking beast, and goes in there and just destroys his fucking kid. Just one punch KOs him and just breaks his entire face. Like,
and then you get Dana White being like, well, he'll never fight again, and he'll never fight for me. And like that kid, and now I see him jogging in Lakeway.
Yeah.
I mean,
luckily he's got a good backdrop, right? He can jump into movies, jump into modeling, well-to-do family, has this degree waiting for him to go get with petroleum engineering.
So what we figured out in the NFL, and I'm sure you see in the fight, that people that have a plan B never execute their plan A.
Yeah.
So like when I did all my interviews for the NFL when I was a rookie at the Combine, like I was graduated from Berkeley in 4 years, did my master's work, had applied for a scholarship to go to law school. My dad was a lawyer, my brothers are lawyers. Like upper middle class kid from Palos Verdes. Like had all of my parents have been married, my dad passed away since, but like 50 some years. Had like this good family. And I remember they were always like, so what are you gonna do if this doesn't work out? I'm like, I'm probably gonna go to law school. And so what was hilarious was that that they don't want to hear that. So when I had the opportunity to go out and prep a bunch of like going to be future NFL players, they were like, what's the interviews going to be like? I'm like, here's what you do. You tell them there is no fucking plan B.
Yeah.
I'm dying on the sword. Like, this is all, like, I got this. And you know what? If this doesn't work, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. This is all I have. And so you can ask Chris. I prepped those kids and basically explained to them, because I knew all the scouts. I knew what they wanted to hear. But I laid it out and I was like, first of all, you have no other interest. This is all you do. This is all you want. When they ask you about school, you're like, I was just there to play football. And I think I prepped these kids well enough that most of them went on and were kind of successful.
Yeah. Different kind of fan. Backup center for the Ravens, stepped in last year and then helped their playoff run. Different kind of fan rooting for those guys. It was cool. Yeah. Within your 2 years, 24-hour fitness, staying with Pops, like, what was that mindset? Was it like, I'm fighting to get the fuck out of here?
I'm not nearly as good looking as Sage Northcutt.
Dude, I'm taller than him. Okay. So that's a good question. For me, that was, I think, one of the toughest parts of the whole journey, because I graduated and every single one of my friends got a job or went back to school, MBA, law school, whatever. I was the only guy that went home and lived with my folks. Right? That's not fun. Everybody else is
Did they call that re-nesting?
Re-nesting?
Yeah.
Andrew invented that.
I call that, you're fucking not coming home. Good on your dad for letting, because I told my kids, I'm like, when you leave, you're not coming home. Your mom and I are moving.
No, yeah, my dad, I mean, my parents are cool. I got lucky. obviously, because I'm probably could not have. Maybe I would have found a way, but it would have been much more difficult, right? Because like 24 Hour Fitness was not paying the bills. That was just like give me a little extra money. My dad was just super supportive. Maybe I could have lived like by my cousin. I don't know what it would have done, but anyway, being like a social extrovert and all of a sudden just cutting all that out of my life for like a year and a half, 2 years was very, very difficult for me. And just like skipping friends' weddings, parties, whatever. No, man, I got to train for what? I got to do jiu-jitsu, you know? I want to fight. Like it's people didn't comprehend it, but I'm happy I made the sacrifice makes it all worth it, right? The journey's the reward. And so yeah, that I think was one of the most difficult parts. One of the most fulfilling parts was when I finally got to this point where I was like, moved out, obviously, teaching martial arts full time, you know, no longer doing something I wasn't passionate about, which was personal training, which I also knew nothing about. I did what's like the most basic one, NASM or something.
Ace, NASM.
I didn't.
No disrespect, just
yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean,
But
just a weekend training.
it gives you access.
I had no business having that certificate, you know, just like I just knew I don't know. I passed that.
You knew the basics.
Yeah, I knew the basics enough. So getting to the point where I was teaching martial arts full time, where I was good enough to teach everybody else, that was I was like, wow.
Did that help you as an athlete?
It did. And then, so that's another thing that I kind of imparted upon my guys is don't take breaks from fighting. If you lose a fight, try to get back in there quickly. Yeah. The other thing that I found out was I think I was a much more successful fighter when I was still teaching. When I got to the point when I was in the UFC and I finally made some money, and I was like, because I think my last fight outside of the UFC was 2,000 to win. Right? $4,000. Pretty nice, right?
Pretty nice.
Yeah. So then I fought in the UFC and all of a sudden I was like,
you can't have a cocaine habit on that fucking money.
No, you cannot.
Blow that in a fucking weekend or in a day.
Buy a lot of lot of high life, you know, a lot of cheap beer.
The champagne.
Yeah, dude.
Of beers.
And then the UFC, you know, I don't know what the first paycheck was, but it was like, you know, maybe 12 and 12 or 14 and 14 plus like a discretionary bonus plus sponsorships and shit like that. I was like, well, I'm definitely done teaching now.
I'm rich, bitch.
Yeah, dude, I'm going to the moon. So anyway, I think not teaching, not being involved in the sport, like, because when I teach, I'm constantly thinking about things. I'm constantly explaining things, reevaluating techniques, watching fights more and kind of picking out what they're doing, dissecting what they're doing and relating that to my guys and then doing it myself. And when I got away from that, I think my fight IQ didn't necessarily go down, but I just think your skills they plateaued. They didn't continue to rise as much. I was still training, still learning other things, but I wasn't as involved in being like a student of the game.
Yeah. When did you acquire your black belt?
Just a couple of years ago, a few years ago, like maybe 2018 or something. Yeah, I honestly
didn't have to be a master to go fight professionally.
There's obviously like, and I'm gonna like, I have no practical knowledge on this. I just know what people have said, especially with like the 10th planet stuff.
Yeah,
being very non-conventional in terms of jiu-jitsu. So there's more like the Jean-Jacques Machado and like the Gracie kind of systems,
sure,
versus the 10th planet, which I heard is like much more free flowing.
10th planet, there's a few things about it. It's exclusive no-gi. So there's no pajamas in the 10th planet system. It's all no-gi. They employ a variety of like overhooks and stuff. It's kind of meant to be used in mixed martial arts to not have to grab as much gi. So they use a lot of hooks and they go heavy on leg locks. Leg locks been around forever, but sure, now they're more predominant than ever, right? My black belt is not within 10th planet. I've been teaching at 10th Planet for a while now, but my black belt came from my cousin, who's more traditional, Carlos Gracie Jr. He got it in Brazil at the Gracie Barra Academy. So even though I had been out of a gi for a long time, for like years, because I recognized early on, kind of like when I first took Taekwondo as a kid, I was like, this isn't practical to bring my hands back down to my waist.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I was like, that's fucking stupid.
And especially the high kicks and all like the extension
it
where
made
they're
no
like
sense.
looking for posture.
And I was like, why am I only punching people in the chest? I feel like it might be more effective if I punch them in the nose.
Well, it's because the point system, the point striking.
And we're children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. I mean,
Yeah.
we did Shotokan, and when I was a kid, and they legitimately punched us in the face.
Yeah, no,
They changed that. This was like the early '80s, where like the dude legitimately used to beat us with sticks. And like I remember telling my mom, and I've told this story. I'm like, Mom, they're hitting us with sticks. She's like, Yeah, it's karate. You fucking seen it on TV. You watch those, kung fu theater. They're beating the shit out of people. Fucking get to it.
I remember my mom would drop us off to taekwondo late, and even though it was her that dropped us off late, we still had to go do push-ups outside on the sidewalk
on
our
the knuckles.
fists. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, it's my mom's fault.
They're like, fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. Get out of there.
What
was the question?
The Koreans are usually fucking serious ball busters.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's TKD's Korean, right?
Yeah. So usually, like I had the old dude that trained, or the old Japanese dude that trained us was like from Japan, and he was super old school. And there was like it was all wooden floors, so we would do throws and slant, like everything. Like you'd have to kneel on these fucking wooden floors. Like it was. Like I think about it like now, and I'm like, fuck, there was no pads. There was nothing. It was like a wooden floor. You got thrown, like you landed on the thing, and you were like, fuck, this hurts.
That is not flying in 2021.
No.
These kids, yeah.
I mean, I don't even think we ever signed like a release.
Waiver.
Yeah, waivers, nothing. I just remember my mom paid cash, and the dude used to beat us up.
Oh, that's great. But back to the black belt, I had kind of like early on in jiu-jitsu, when I was doing a little bit of both, I was still doing gi jiu-jitsu, but I was still training for fights. I started just taking the gi off more and more. And it's like, I'm just doing all no gi, just doing all no gi. This and that. The gi is not going to translate to mixed martial arts as much as a lot of people say, oh, it does. Not in my opinion. So
unless the dude's wearing a big sweatshirt, you get to choke him out with a big sweatshirt.
Unless it's a real street fight and the guy's like wearing like a sport coat or something.
Fucking pulling it
Yeah,
around,
you're just
or
choking
fucking,
with him or throwing with it. Well, you see this thing's funny in like I think it's like I forgot it was Korean parliament or Japanese parliament. But anyway, these guys like they get in a fight like in the like on the like the floor of like the whatever Asian Senate or something. And so they get in like a fist fight, but they're not throwing punches. They're grabbing each other's lapels and trying to throw each other. Because they all came from like this judo background. And everything in judo was grabbing somebody's shirt and throwing them with it or choking them with it. But yeah, anyway, I got out of the gi for a long time, but I was still practicing jiu-jitsu. So eventually my cousin was like, black belt. I had been doing it for fucking 12 years. So, it was time. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, with training and identifying and thinking of your weaknesses, did you then seek out like a boxing or wrestling?
All of it, yeah. I found
that's why it's called mixed.
Well, I understand
mixed
that.
fighting, but and we've seen this in the UFC where all of a sudden like a Ronda Rousey, for example, who's like a legit judo player, comes out and she's fucking tearing people up, and then Holly Holmes, who's a boxer, fucking just laces her with hands. I mean, so it's almost like the guys at this point, and I think we've talked about this. Like you have to have such a skilled like exposure into like the fight game. You got to know judo. You got to know this. I mean, you got to know ground and pound. I mean, no longer the days of where like a dude like the Gracies can come in and just fucking do jujitsu.
the specialist guys.
Yeah.
Less and less of them. Which is kind of like I love seeing a specialist go in there and you know exactly what he's going to do and he's able to do it.
Like
it so rarely happens though.
Who was it?
Damian Maia for a while.
Muchada or no, the karate dude.
Machida.
Yeah, Machida.
Yeah, Machida. You know he's gonna just strike you and just like snipe you.
Yeah.
I liked Damien though. He's going to try to take you down and submit you right away. And there's still some of those guys like that, like a Ryan Hall or something. This guy's just got insane ground game, and nobody can figure out how to knock it taken down by him. Like he'll hook BJ Penn in a second. But yeah, I was always seeking out, trying to get the best of the best. So my cousin's always been my jiu-jitsu coach. He's top notch. He's still smashed me. I can't gain an inch on him. We had some really high level wrestlers come in, like Penn State guys. This guy from Central Michigan, he's one of the last dudes in college to beat Jordan Burroughs. Jordan Burroughs, like a 3-time Olympian. My Muay Thai coach, he lived in Thailand for a number of years, fought over there, 20 some odd times, fought some of the best. And his record is almost backwards in Muay Thai. I'm like, dude, why don't you fight like somebody easier? He goes, I just want to fight the best, man. I'm like, well, they keep beating you.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it doesn't
no, but it's the experience and he excellent coach. Now he's in Houston. He's got his own school. And he's got some of the best talent in America right now. He's the president of the United States Muay Thai Federation, which is cool because I used to just drink with him, And boxing coaches, I trained with Ronnie Shields a little bit. Ronnie Shields is famously coached Tyson back in the day. He's got one of the Charlo brothers, coaches a bunch of top guys in Houston. And then I eventually ended up with the guy Bobby Benton, which when I first trained with him, he was training some big names. He's got Cedric Agnew and Regis Prograis. Regis Prograis is one of the bigger names right now at I think 140, was it 143? I think he's like 21-1, just lost his first fight. But I remember hitting pads with Bobby. We had the whole like how old are you? He's like, blah, blah, blah. I was like 30. No, I was 28 at the time, maybe. Where are you from? I was like, West Houston. He goes, what high school? I go, Stratford. He goes, what year? And turns out he went to Stratford like several years before me, but grew up in the boxing game. This is main boxing gym in Houston, Lou Savarese. I mean, he had all the big names roll through this gym. So yeah, I was always seeking out the best guys for the coaching positions. And I feel like that really put me in a position now to just be this well-rounded coach. Like, well, who'd you train boxing with? Boom, name, Muay Thai, boom, this name. I've always got like somebody I can revert back to.
It's called pedigree.
Pedigree.
You got to have the pedigree.
Yes, sir.
Would you say wrestling is the best style that carries to the UFC?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
doubt about
usually
it.
guys that are high school wrestlers, because those guys always, fucking, like I remember the high school wrestler dudes that at my high school, like they had space heaters. So they would put space heaters in, and then they would train in like full like sweats,
Yeah.
and it was like 150 degrees in there. These kids were in there killing it. And like I remember there was a big fight at my high school, and all I know is the fucking kids that were wrestlers who weren't that big were fucking smashing dudes, and a bunch of the football player guys I knew couldn't fight for shit. But I remember those wrestler dudes were fucking tough as nails.
They're a different animal. And if you look at, just go down the weight classes in the UFC,
Yep.
majority wrestlers. I mean, if you look at heavyweight, Cyril Gane and Ngannou, neither one, but Stipe Miocic came from wrestling. John Jones, wrestling. John Jones, light heavy champion. Daniel Cormier was light heavy and heavy wrestler. Who's 85 right now? Is Izzy Adesanya, so that's a little bit different, but Weidman was the champ.
Yep.
Weidman, wrestler. 70, Kamaru Usman, wrestler. I mean, for the most part, that's the most, those guys have the most success.
Yeah.
Is that now? Do you see the game changing in another decade?
No, I still think that's going to be the top thing. However, you're gone are the days of guys only being able to wrestle.
Yeah.
Right? Like a Matt Hughes or something like that. They're just going to take you down and grind on you. That's not happening. Like a Usman, he could take you down and grind on you, but that guy can box from both stances, throw nasty straight left, straight right. He's knocking dudes out. They just can't take him down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no,
It's not just the power
you
to
gotta
take
have a
people
complete
down.
game.
It's the power to stay on your feet when you want to.
Yeah.
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 Which, I mean, Wes Hughes, I don't know. Did y'all have it at Katie? Y'all probably had it at Katie Taylor.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah.
Every time you say West Houston, all I hear is Will Smith being the West Philadelphia, born and raised.
Yeah.
Every time you say it.
Yeah, a little harder out there.
Well, have you ever been to West Philly?
Odds are. I mean, I don't. I know museum and then St. Joe's for my cousins.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that whole Strawberry Mansion area and all that stuff. It was
yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
North Philly to West Philly. Was,
No wrestling though. We're at Stratford. No wrestling.
Dude, I
for all
thought I
those
remember
schools.
like a wrestling room way back.
No,
No?
there was a room with wrestling mats in it.
Yeah,
and
that's all I remember.
Yeah, there was no wrestling though. There was no wrestling coaches. There was no wrestling team. There was no wrestling club. There was nothing. And that was for all the the only district I think like within Houston was HISD.
Oh,
so like
shit.
Lamar and like West Side and those schools like that had it. But
You need to go find your next protege in the freaking
one of those?
HISD wrestling,
I know, right?
dude.
dude.
Yeah, inner city.
Yeah.
Shit, man. Well, like where do you seek coaching and teaching expertise now? Do you continue to seek out the best for yourself to bring to your athletes?
I need to for myself. I'd like to almost like continue in education, right? I've been training these guys for so long just off of everything that I know, but I'm to the point now where I need to go get with some of my coaches again, just for a weekend, just for a day, just to kind of pick their brains again and kind of refresh myself with what they're doing with their specific stylized training. Mine's the whole gambit, the mixed martial arts. I just need to go back to my boxing coach and just work boxing for a day, but go back to my Muay Thai coach, do that kind of stuff and bring that back to my guys. And I do that occasionally. And it's always like for me, I mean, it's fucking eye-opening. But yeah, I think that's gonna be a big part of it. And I think with my guys, I mean, right now they're all amateurs, but because of, I think, our reputation and how well our team's doing, we went from like 8 amateurs and now we've got like 15 amateurs and now we got 3 pros on the team. Just guys are kind of, so many people are moving to Austin anyway, right?
Yeah.
And so if they want to fight, they're automatically coming to our
It's like
school.
the rats are running onto the ship.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah, man. Well, how do you now recommend strength, conditioning, weight training, and all that based off your experience to your guys?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's tricky. It's so hard. Okay, so first of all, with young amateurs that's like 21, 22, these guys are like, they're like driving pedicabs, they're doing DoorDash, they're Ubering, like they're not making any real money, you know?
Yeah.
So it's hard to pay for a real coach. Luckily I had this connection in Houston where the guy did jiu-jitsu with us. But he also had his own facility where he was training like guys on the Texans, guys on the Dynamo, like real deal athletes. And I felt like really cool walking into there, being able to have this really high level training. Now it's more like you got a friend who that's his thing. He trains. He's got like this, little garage area, and he's the expert, so to speak. Like knows more than me, but I don't know if I'm gonna put him in like with the people that I used to train with. So that's a tough one. Like I want them. Right now, I'm not dictating what kind of strength program they're doing, just that they have one. Yeah. Just that they're doing something that is helping their strength, their mobility, their athleticism, their explosiveness. I just want them to be doing something on the side, right?
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, you got old friends over here.
Yeah. I know.
That can guide.
You're people that knows people now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm putting that together. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we have a...
Slowly connecting the dots.
John, how would you describe Grindstone? And how does that apply to the mixed martial artists?
We've used Grindstone pretty successfully. Something like Field Strong, like you think about athletic development. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest hole for most of these guys is they're just not strong.
Yeah.
Like they just need to be stronger in different positions. And so I think people get too ideated like in this sport specific training that they need to do a bunch of shit like you see on YouTube with speed ladders and jumping around and doing all that. And I think like at some point there's like a athletic training style, but I think for most of these guys, if they just lifted weights and they lifted weights well and they challenged different movements, bilateral, unilateral, and just did a little bit of pulling, a little bit of pushing, and then at the end of the day, if they got stronger and then we're developing a lot of their athleticism and skill within the fight prep, like within like their boxing and movement. I remember I'd never felt like I got better in boxing in the ring. It was all the little bullshit we did.
Sure.
Like all the mitts and the movement and this and like all the technical stuff.
It's not sparring. It's in the fucking drill it.
And like, I mean, just like the hours of fucking just focus mitts and the swinging bags. And just everything we did and just learning to move and react. And, like we would even do something where like a guy would move and you would move. And you just kind of do these like little dances to the point where you're like, oh, now I understand.
Sure. No, I mean, and then you look at like a Canelo training video. Yeah. He's got his coach right there, and then they're hitting him. He's doing a 3-punch combo, and they do that 50, 100 times, whatever it is. It's simple.
It's automatic.
It's repetition.
Yeah.
Right.
It's automatic.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of these guys, like everybody wants like they see like the what the top guy's doing. Like, oh, I got to do that.
Yeah.
No. Like for what you need is there needs to be a progression. Like I just need you to get stronger with these basic movements. And once you master that, you get to this, then you unlock another course. It's just like a video game. Once you get through the first level, you unlock the second, and then we kind of progress people along. Everybody wants to start at level 99 on Mario Brothers. And I'm like, dude, you got to get through the whole beginning to develop your skills to get you to go kill the fucking giants.
Well, people see Floyd Mayweather doing pads with his uncle, like with Roger, and it's.
But they've been doing that.
Yeah, no, and you're like, and people want to do fancy pads, and you're like, no, you need to throw a jab in the heavy bag 100 times.
First of all, they're doing the pads purely for the media and the gram.
Oh yeah.
And on top of it, those guys are so smart that the shit that they're showing isn't the shit that they're doing.
No.
Yeah.
And on top of it, I mean, Mayweather's in his 40s. He's been professionally fighting for over, it's like what, 20 plus years?
Yeah.
And
his dad was a fighter.
His dad was a fighter. I mean, his dad trained him, and then the dad left and he was coaching Oscar De La Hoya, and the uncle stepped in, and then the dad came back, and they have generations of this fucking skill he's been doing since he's a little kid. You think that this is what he's fucking doing?
Man, I mean, so it's really hard with young cats because they see the cool shit, they see the spin kicks, the flying knees, and I'm like, guys, those are low percentage, high risk moves.
What's his name? The guy that hit the dude with the knee with the fucking ponytail.
Oh, Masvidal.
Yeah. I mean, he gets that one shot,
right? And
next thing the WWE's out there got him doing the fucking move. I was like, dude, he literally had one fucking opening. Yeah. Did it and caught that dude.
I mean, I've got one of my most talented guys. He's a light heavyweight. He just had his fight. This guy can box, he can wrestle, he can do it all, right? And he's got this one guy, this is his second mixed martial arts fight. He's got this guy guessing, just flinching on every little feint that he throws, right, with his boxing. And then, instead of just eating him up with the hands, he throws a spinning side kick.
And he gets punched in the back of the head.
Gets his back taken and gets choked out. And I'm like,
man.
how many times do we do a spinning side kick in our warm up? How many successful spinning side kicks are you landing in sparring? You're not. We're not even
You
drilling.
need more, coach. Come on, dude.
Dude. One of my favorite things is Henry Hooft. He's a top coach. He coached Vitor for a while.
Everybody saw that video, and I forgot who it was, where the dude basically knocked that dude out with the spinning back knuckle.
Oh, okay.
I'll find it, dude.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the fighter was, but the dude basically goes in there and he like throws the shoulder, and the dude like moves to the other, and then he fucking basically takes a step and then catches the dude with the spinning back knuckle and knocks him unconscious. I feel like, first of all, that type of shit never works. The guy got one fucking deal, did it for the gram, got this guy with some spinning back knuckle, and now everybody wants to do like a fucking heel kick and all this other shit.
It fucking happens, right? Like Edson Barboza has one of the most talked about spin wheel kicks in the UFC. Boom, KO. Paul Felder spinning back fist KO. Those are few and far between. Look at the majority of finishes is coming from like a straight right, a left hook, kick, or something like that, taken down submission. So back to Henry Hooft, coach at Sanford MMA. That's like one of the top places right now to train. Is over in South Florida. It's got almost every single big name down there, and his whole methodology is keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah,
I mean,
kiss.
Straight punches, keep it simple, and so that's kind of something I'm trying to impart on my guys. I'm like, guys, drill what works more. Don't get caught up.
Well, the
in
basics are called the basics because they're the basics. And the problem is that the minute that you forget to do the basics, then you get fucking annihilated.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why boxers do road work. They jump rope. I mean, there's always these things like they're, like watching dude, you can tell, not that it's a great indicator of a fight skill, but when you see a boxer fucking make the heavy bag or the speed bag sing, it's not like, oh, he's a good boxer because he can make it sing. He's done the amount of fucking time and warm up and prep work. He's given himself enough opportunity to be able to make that motherfucker look great. I mean, it's just like speed ladders, right? Like I love watching videos of dudes on the speed bag and they're doing all these fucking crazy, like none of them are big time boxers,
Sure.
But when you see a big time boxer that's pretty good on it, he's just had enough opportunity to do it.
Yeah, he's covered. He's done all of his other work.
Yeah.
And now he gets to fuck around the speed bag a little bit. Yeah.
Two questions. First, think of the Matrix and Batman Begins when the freaking young go hard meets the master and they just put one or two moves to put him down. Is there any times where a kid just won't listen and you got to show him the power of the basics?
Very often, yes.
So you step in and just put him down?
Well, no, I mean, okay, so it's not so much. Actually, this is a good example. Just the other week, I was sparring. It was my boxing class, right? And this guy, he's a younger guy. He's way smaller, so you definitely can't hit these guys in the head. But he's sitting there trying to go hands down and do some bullshit. And I'm just like, I don't say anything to him, but I
start calling him Prince?
No, I hit him with the liver shot and put him, and I have him take a knee. Not have him, but he had to take a knee.
Even if your hands are at your side, you can at least block the liver shot because you got to get that thing right.
Well, you got to bring the hands up. You got to throw some to the head and then come down low, right? And after class, I go, man, cut that bullshit out. You should have just been jabbing at me. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, double jab cross, blah, blah, blah. And, the guys they recognize the error of their way once that happens. I'm like, liver shots, it's just a left hook low, right? That's a simple shot. Or same thing, guys get a little fancy to do a spin kick. I'll take their back, take it down, or, whatever it is. But yes, I'm constantly doing that. I'm kind of like, you have like the gym enforcer, like the teacher, all at the same time. Yeah.
And then when was when the student is ready, the master appears moment? Was there some moment in that first 2 years?
These are really good questions. For once, you finally brought some good questions.
I know. It's because I've known Andrew for 20
after
fucking
carrying you
years.
all these years, you're giving me some good stuff.
More than man, not even 30 years, but a long time. But then, what was that moment that you gave in to the master, whoever that was?
You mean for me?
Yeah, as the athlete.
That's a good question. Because I feel like all my teachers have always I still hold them in very high regard. You know what I mean? Like I just said, my cousin in Jiu Jitsu, I still can't touch him. Any wrestling coach, I might get something on these guys, but I'm not excelling, or I'm not beating them, which always leaves me hungry, which always leaves me there's still room to improve. They still know more than me. I'm still not there yet. I might be the master of my guys, But my guys are still above the ones that taught me are still above me.
Are you doing your boxing with the little 8-pound or 8 ounces, or are you wearing like bigger gloves?
For most all of our kickboxing sparring, we use 16-ounce gloves.
So
But
you use
then
big gloves.
we have other just mixed martial arts spar days where we use small gloves. And now UFC uses like 4-ounce gloves, but we use what we call and they have no thumb protection. We use what we call puffies. They're like 8-ounce with a thumb protector.
Yeah, no,
And you have to spar in those. You have to get used to the smaller
hits.
glove because it's too easy with bigger gloves to just shell, right?
Yeah.
Now with little gloves, you can't shell. All those shots are going to get through just around the glove. So you have to do much more head movement, much more parrying, a little more evasive. Whereas in boxing, kickboxing, you kind of just step in and like, let's go. Whereas in mixed martial arts, the distance is far different. So you have to get used to that part of it too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, so you fight in all different type of gloves.
Yeah.
Nice.
Got to get guys used to it.
Sweet.
All right, last question. What are some name drops of some dudes that we could look for and get excited about? Get behind them.
Oh shit, he's been name dropping people constantly.
Well, his young guys.
Oh
his
man,
young guys.
my young guys, I don't have any just yet that y'all are going to be seeing anytime soon. I'm gonna be posting about them, like making a big deal about it on my stuff.
What's your Instagram? Let me
It's,
read it off for the people because I'm gonna follow you right now.
Andy B. Craig. Nobody
Andy.
calls me. Actually, people that don't know me call me Andy.
Andy B. Craig.
Yeah, I don't know why I did it like that. I think Andrew B. Craig was taken. Andrew Craig was taken. The Andrew Craig was taken. All that kind of stuff.
Dude, highlight. Hey, second question.
Should have done it.
What was the origin of the highlight?
That's a funny story too, because that was high school. That was just scout team football. That was just me fucking running the rock like 30 times at practice every day, and just
Well, yeah, Stratford's LSU offense, right?
not having exceptional speed, but having great balance to where I just kind of like pinballed off a bunch of people and occasionally just made it to the end, right? Yeah. Some people, Kilgore?
Yeah.
Kilgore would say, what the fuck would he say?
He was a funny guy.
It was really rude. Yeah. Something about always being in slow-mo or something. I don't know. What a dick. Actually, so coming back to one thing that you were talking about as far as the strength training with these guys, mixed martial arts is interesting. A lot of these guys came from never playing sports before. Wow. We came from playing every single sport. So I'm used to lifting weights. I'm used to that sort of I'm used to having that part of practice.
Sure.
A lot of these guys, they just they jumped in jiu-jitsu at like 20 years old and that's all they've ever known. So doing the whole like lifting and squatting and shit like that is all kind of brand new for them. So you see a lot of these guys' bodies are morphing more than a lot of the guys because this a brand new
unadapted amateurs for like the truest sense.
Yeah.
It's killer, man. Well, it's awesome, dude. Dude, thanks so much for coming on and fucking chopping it up. And I really appreciate your the fact that you're a student of the game and have you gone and done all these different disciplines and you know who people are and have an opinion about it. It's cool, man. I could love talk. I love talking fighting and boxing.
We nerded out for a while there.
Oh, dude, people are probably going to listen to this and be like, John got so excited. I'm like, it's because I don't get really excited about watching football.
Yeah.
I did it. I'll watch it with my kids because I want them to be exposed to it. My wife and I will talk about it because she's a big football fan, or I'll go through and I'll watch what was the Monday night? Oh, Dallas.
Yeah.
So it's really funny now that Dallas is running the West Coast offense because their head coach McCarthy, Green Bay, Mike Holmgren, Andy Reid. So he's basically running the offense that I played for at the Eagles. So I'm watching their offense. They're basically running sprint right option, inside outside zone, and I'm looking at the sets and I'm calling the plays. And my wife's they're running. This is the offense I fucking grew up in. So it's not that exciting, but I love boxing.
Nice.
And the UFC stuff. I'm just so it's because you get to see such different athletes from different walks of life that have put together a different package. This guy came from here, this guy came from here. This is what his fight skill is. Everybody's creating their own. It's like going to like restaurants where everybody has their own flavor and this is how they're doing it. And then they get a chance to get on Iron Chef and fucking compete. And we get to see who put the best recipe together. And then sometimes it doesn't fucking matter because the guy gets lucky with a spinning back knuckle. Yeah. And so the only thing which kind of bums me as an athlete is realizing that these guys aren't being paid accordingly with what the ticket, the amount of money that these the gates bringing in with the pay-per-view and all this other stuff, and these dudes are getting just like, here's a crumb.
Did you see that breakdown of the revenue share between all of them? Like, I think UFC was like 16,
dude, and
Bellator was 30 something, and then MLB, NBA, NFL are all around 50.
Yeah. So, I mean, because it's collectively bargained and because there's a union and there's a lot of stuff, I mean, the players have fought for this. And the problem is because Dana White's never let, any type of unionization of the people, I mean, come through. I mean, they basically have fucking smashed it because it's like, hey, if like, there's nobody that has a big, or the only person that's been a big enough star has been McGregor. And he's the only guy I've seen that actually gets a percentage of the pay-per-view in the gate.
Yeah.
And they cut that deal with him because he was such a big draw. I mean, he knows that if he's on the card, it's exponential. And then he was able to cut that deal. They just have to go negotiate with that one dude.
Right.
It's not like they got to negotiate with all these guys. And if you cause fucking trouble, they fucking boot you out.
Quick comment on the NFL TV rights. So how the CBA, the players share ratings from Fox, CBS, NBC, ABC, ESPN. But then NFL Network, NFL owns it.
Yeah.
So now the Red Zone, I'm a big Red Zone fan.
Oh, that's why.
So viewers, they're not like, I'm not watching Fox anymore.
Well,
so now they're not getting a cut of my view.
Conspiracy.
Interesting.
Here's the conspiracy that eventually the NFL will get to the point because the TV deal is how players get played. So the TV deal gets put together and all of the salary cap is paid by the TV deal. So the teams pay no money. So like, hey, if the salary cap is like, $40 million a team, and it's over that money is paid by the networks. So my thought is that eventually what the NFL will do, will start 2 or 3 channels and basically pull all the game viewing into their own NFL channels. And then basically cut out the TV deal and then force the players to negotiate in a different way.
In line with that, what Fox did, because Red Zone, you can see the clock ticker, and imagine Fox bottom screen, score and time. They lowered the score and the game clock to the bottom, so now Red Zone ticker cuts it off. So they're trying to lure people back to Fox so they can see the bottom line time.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, dude.
Sneaky.
It's dirty pool. But like the one thing the players have got like a healthy chunk. Like I mean, they're not making the money the owners are, but that's fine. The problem I have is when dudes are making 10, 15 grand and they're pulling in 30, 40, 50 million on a fight.
Yeah.
Like it just. And, Dana White just fucking laughs his way to the bank.
That doesn't jive.
No. Yeah. And Jake Paul and those guys calling him out on it and other people calling him out on it. And he's like, fuck off. It's my playground. You guys ain't going to play unless you do it by my rules.
I love, say what you will about Jake Paul. He's bringing a lot of light to the fighter pay issue, which I respect.
Yeah. And you know what? Like for whatever their YouTube, I mean, dude, the fact that he walked in there. Now they're cherry picking fights.
Sure.
I mean, he's not fighting legitimate boxers.
His older brother fucking fought Floyd. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, who's making that happen?
Yeah, dude.
These guys are crazy.
Yeah. Like good for those dudes for seizing the opportunity. One thing I appreciate though is they come out looking the part minus all the stupid tattoos, but they legitimately have trained and they're out there skilled fighters.
Jake Paul can box.
Yeah, he can box. I mean, I don't really care for all of his fucking antics, but at the end of the day, the dude can box and is a fighter. He's just not somebody that puts on gloves.
No doubt.
But I do like them calling out Dana White and fucking talking shit on the fact that there's this fucking basically they're stealing from the fighters, dude.
Yeah.
They need to be offering more money. These guys need to be making more. And I like have I'm always conflicted where I know what the pay-per-view gate is and I want to watch the fight, but I also have a hard time contributing to fucking something that I know is not benefiting the athletes.
Yeah, you're like paying like the Aubrey at one time compared it to is like we were thinking about sponsoring like something with like the UFC PI. And he was like, why would we sponsor the UFC instead of a fighter? That's like paying the emperor.
Yeah.
That's like paying the dark side. We don't do that.
It's why for a lot of the fights, like I know they're going on and I'll wait the next day to watch all the clips and rewatch the fights because I just can't fucking pay in because I know that money. Now, if they said, hey, you know what, these guys are getting a percentage of the gates. If the guy wins, he's getting paid X and they were more transparent, then I would have no problem paying in. Whereas in boxing, I got no problem paying the money because I know that those guys have legitimately negotiated pieces of the game and the pay-per-view. But the UFC, it just, I love it, but it fucking leaves a bad taste in my mouth because there's the player or the fighters I feel are getting the fucking short end.
Something's got to give. I mean, there's way too many class action lawsuits with some big people behind them that eventually something's got to land.
Well, it will.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Redskins, for example. You remember the owner will never change the fucking name, and then they changed the name. So things had to get so bad that they were more worried about like the negative implications. It's like the NFL. They never wanted to have a collective bargain. They never wanted to have a union, but they get to the point where they're like, we're not going to have a business, or we're going to be viewed as such fucking bad people that our press doesn't allow us this. But yeah, I don't know how you, like, one, you can't shame Dana White. I mean, that dude's like fucking Teflon.
Yeah.
I mean, like everywhere that guy goes, somebody probably tries to fight him. I mean, Dana White's like legitimate Teflon, and you're never going to fuck with him. I mean, he's a professional shit talker. He's the best there is. Nobody's going to hurt that dude's
Probably
feelings.
walks around with like a squad, like 5 SEALs. He's all juiced up on TRT. He's worth, $500 million. He's not bothered by whatever you say.
So Jesse James is our neighbor over there, and he flew in on his private jet and came in and like basically paid Jesse in cash to build him some insane chopper and build him a matching bunch of pistols. And I think Jesse's fucking bikes probably start. I mean, yeah, like I know what Jesse's the pistols he ordered, what they start at, and I know what the bikes start at, and he just basically like, hey, what it cost? Somebody walked behind him, wrote the check, and they walked away.
It was just
Jumped in the line of his wait list.
Yeah, like Jesse has a wait. It's kind of like I'm sure Jesse has a hell of a wait list of people that want to get shit, and then all of a sudden, when he flies in, Dana White flies in on a private jet, there is no wait list. But he said, I guess he was like, sounds great, and I guess Dana White just walked away, and the other guy walked behind him and just handed him the check, and Jesse wrote the number in, and calls when it's done.
Writes it himself. I like that. Yeah. That's a good move.
Didn't even ask what it cost. Hey, I want this, and I want it. Okay. And then he just walked away, and some little fucking pencil pusher walked over with a check and just fill in the numbers you need.
Incredible.
So that's the money, which good on him for it, but I have a hard time as being an athlete and a player and seeing that whole deal. Like, I think that the fighters and the athletes should be paid accordingly with, I remember I did an interview one time, and I used to just try to say all this fucking clandestine weird shit to the news just to try to fuck with them. But they asked me, they're like, what do you think when you walk out on the field? And I'm like, before every game, I actually say to myself, Ave Caesar, Morituri, te salutant.
What's that?
Latin for Hail Caesar, those of us about to die salute you, which is what the gladiators would say when they were in the Colosseum.
Yeah.
And I fucking said that. These dudes' heads fucking exploded. It's probably the first time they'd ever heard an NFL offensive lineman basically rattle off something in Latin and have something that's that esoteric. And that was like a big deal for them. So, but like at the end of the day, it's true. I mean, you're going out there, those of us about to die salute you, like fucking pay the people for what they're worth. Let them take care of their families. Like, they're making the deal, pay them what they're worth. And if nobody was doing pay-per-view and the gate was $20,000, then I get it. But when you're making fucking tens of millions of dollars and you're running these every other week, like, pay the players.
When you're a professional athlete working for $1 billion company, you shouldn't have to have a second job.
Yeah. 100%. Like in the NFL, before we collectively bargained, dudes used to drive beer trucks and had a second job, sell insurance because they couldn't pay the bills. And like, are you really a professional athlete if it doesn't pay your bills?
Well, professional lacrosse. It's those guys are working Wall Street during the week,
really?
And then getting flying out to play in the games.
Well, they're not really. It's not really professional, man. But like, I will say, I watched clips of the guy what was his name we had on?
Marcus Holman.
I don't know shit about lacrosse, but all I know is
he's an athlete,
dude. That kid was out there making other people look stupid. Like I don't have to be knowledgeable about the sport, but I'm knowledgeable enough about sport and movement to realize when somebody else is doing other shit that other people can't do, and that kid can do a lot of shit.
Yeah, you reference different levels. Like, he's that top tier level, and then there's everybody else that are still the best in the world.
Yeah.
So it's
I used to
else.
see it, and people, who's the best player you played against? I'm like, it was the next guy. Every week it'd be like, oh, this guy made the Pro Bowl. This guy's all pro. This guy's future Hall of Fame. And then, like every fucking week you have the best in the world, which is like in the fight game. Like there aren't any fishes anymore. There isn't any gimmies. It's not like boxing where you can go to fucking Atlantic City and fight some fucking schlub from somewhere. Like every time you show up, like the best in the world are fighting for that job.
Just all sharks.
Which is what you want. It's what I wanted in the NFL. I like, and I talked about earlier on the podcast, being a fan of like humanity. I want to see the best in the world on the biggest stage, have like their greatest performance, and stand with their hand up in victory. And like, I can fucking get behind that, and I'm a fan of that. Like, I want to see. I'm not kidding you. I want to see Fury fucking knock out Wilder and like fucking put his hands up and be the champ. And if Wilder fucking smashes him, I'm gonna be just as excited.
Yeah. No, I feel like there's a certain level of legitimization. Like I feel better. Like I knew I was a good fighter, but I wanted to be in there with the best to really feel what that felt like. Am I as good as I think I am?
Yeah, and which is a question that everybody should ask themselves. And if you're not asking yourself that, you got to go out and find it. I mean, it's really the foundation of Fight Club. I mean, like that movie, and I'm sure you've seen it, and people over-reference it to the point where I want to throw up. But it was legitimately like, what do you know about yourself unless you've been tested?
Yep.
And I think that spurred a lot of questions in people's minds. And at the end of the day, you can create all these illusions, but at the moment you're by yourself for that 10 minutes before you walk out there, that's when you're most honest. And then there's a lot of people like, I haven't done the work. Yeah, I shouldn't be here. This is going to go poorly. Which is what you don't want to. But in life, that shit happens. Yeah, people do it in marriages. They do it in work. They do it. They're hoping to show up and just fucking hide. And unfortunately, there's nowhere to hide in these environments. So,
final question: you like being in the corner for people?
I love that. Yes.
Cut me, Mick.
It's almost all the thrill with almost none of the pressure.
And how many days after a fight were you sore?
Depending on how the fight went, but usually it felt like I've never been like a car wreck, but like you're just fucking like sore all over. Like what happened to me, I don't know. And it's a lot of time it's both getting hit, but I think it's like how tense your body gets at certain times.
Oh man. Yeah.
So there was this old, when we were kids. So I grew up watching boxing. That was like our favorite thing. But I remember there was a Mexican boxer, and his ring man, or one of the dudes in his ring, used to tape pictures of the dude's kids on his bald head. So when he went in, he had like a crown of all the kids' all these kids' faces on his head. And I always remember being like, they need to bring that back. You need to like tape people on your head when you go in. Like that's like if you looked it up, I'm sure we could find. I can't remember who the boxer it might have been.
It's gonna take me too long.
Yeah, no, it was a Mexican boxer. It wasn't. Fuck man.
While you're thinking, final question.
Yeah.
Walkout song. What'd you go with?
All right.
Did it change?
It changed. I had a lot of good ones, man. First one, Give It Away, Chili Peppers. I did Paint It Black. I've done Purple Haze. I've done Ram Jam, Black Betty. I did Even You Brutus. It was a newer Chili Peppers. I've done. That was like one of my favorite things, was picking and walkout songs.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah,
it's fucking awesome.
I even did a D Antwoord one, which didn't go over that well, but I thought it was cool at the time. What are some other ones? Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, Chili Peppers. I did the song by The Heavy, What Makes a Good Man. That was a cool one. I had a lot of good ones, yeah. I liked that a lot. My least favorite experience with the walkout song was I fought in Manchester, and I came out to Paint It Black by Rolling Stones. I was like, it's gonna be a big hit with the Manchester audience. And I came out to it, and then people liked it, But then I'm waiting in the cage, and then I'm fighting a dude from Manchester. And that's one of the worst parts. It's not right before you walk out to the fight. It's when you walk out first and you're waiting in the cage and have to listen to the other guy's music and him walk out while it's just dark in there and you're by yourself just like pacing. And he came out to Come Together by the Beatles, and the whole fucking place went nuts. And I've never felt so small.
Damn. What? How do they decide who walks out first?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I
mean that's his home crowd.
I was coming off of a win, so I thought that it would be me, but I guess because he was the hometown guy, he came out. Yeah,
usually the hometown guy is going to come out, and even if he's the champ, he's still going to have the hometown guy.
Yeah,
awesome. Well, thanks, dude. Thanks
You're
for
welcome,
coming on
man. Thanks for having me. That was a blast.
Yeah, that was badass. I'm glad Tex waited this long to let us know that you had friends.
Well, here's a shout out. 2 hours and 8 minutes in, my stepsister helped align this. So shout out to Sarah.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
And she's not going to listen all the way to the end to get her thanks, but hey, thanks.
Just
Sarah.
tell her.
Be like, we thanked you 208. So, well, dude. You already dropped us your Instagram, so people want to get a hold of you, they can reach out.
Yeah, reach out there. Come see me. Come train. Yeah, I'm around.
Yeah,
awesome.
Sweet.
Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Power Athlete Radio. Bye.